Hey friends, hope you're all doing well. We're doing okay too, just really tired since we've been working non-stop. We wanted to answer a question many of you ask: how does our publishing process work? Most of our audiobooks are first posted on Patreon as paid content. They stay behind a paywall for a few months. After that, they become free to access on Patreon forever. Then, a few weeks later, we upload them to other platforms like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, X. Lately, our community hasn't been growing much, and we could really use your help. Please share our site in your Facebook groups, Discord servers, Reddit threads, Twitter, X, or with any friends who might be interested. Every little bit helps and we really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for being with us and supporting what we do, Big Sis. How did Fu not notice, Sue? The opponent disregarded her query, adhering to the notion that speaking too much would only lead to trouble. Swiftly channeling her chakra, she began to weave hand signs, her hand slamming directly towards Fu's exposed belly. For symbol seal. As the seal was applied as a supplement, another faint seal was briefly revealed underneath. Fu's brow furrowed in pain, but it was soon replaced by a sense of panic. No, why can't I feel? Before Fu could utter another word, a needle jutted forth from the red-haired woman's palm, piercing Fu's neck. A strange drowsy sensation coursed through Fu's body as a foreign substance was injected, and moments later, her consciousness began to fade away. Well done, Karina, the man in the black trench coat praised as he approached, the two masked beauties following closely behind. In his hand, he held a scroll, which he used to efficiently pack away the corpses of the nearby ninja guards that had been dealt with. Karina smirked, tightening the chains that bound Fu even further. Easier than expected, my dear. This one is still just a naive little girl. But Kano, are you sure you don't want to add her to your harem? Shino, disguised as Kano, surveyed Fu's petite frame and tomboyish yet beautiful face, knowing the unique experience she could offer. However, he shook his head firmly. It was already decided from the beginning. Not just anyone can be my queen. Only the useful ones are worthy, and Fu, with her naive and reckless personality, only seeking to satisfy her own boredom instead of working hard, is certainly not welcome under my command. And as for her performance in other activities, I already have a better alternative now, Shino declared, his arm wrapped around Ying as his hand roamed over her petite, perky round assets, partially concealed by her assassin outfit, while he handed her the scroll in his other hand. Are you sure, my dear? Don't you want a taste of what she has to offer before I proceed with the necessary procedures? After all, if the experiment fails, she'll be gone forever, Karina tempted once more. There's no need for further discussion, Karina. Take her to the prepared base. Let's complete the harvest before anyone becomes suspicious, Shino commanded, gesturing towards the hidden overlord in the sky. With chakra wings sprouting from her back through her usage of the adapted mysterious peacock method, Karina pouted unhappily. My dear is so impatient to send me away. Is my dear planning to have fun with your little maid while I'm away? Shino playfully rubbed Karina's nose. Jealous again, my little goblin? Well, then hurry up and complete the sealing. Once you return after sealing the 7 tails, I'll make sure to fill you with love. A smile curved Karina's lips as she agreed, that's a deal, my dear. With a sense of urgency, Karina swiftly ascended into the sky, carrying the unconscious Fu with her. Below, Ying pressed herself against Kano, whispering seductively, Master, summon me back. Ying will fulfill her duty and keep Master entertained while Mistress is away. Shino's calm voice resonated as he regarded Ying, admiring her new Shadow Guard outfit. Naughty. Ying playfully stuck out her tongue. Ying is only naughty for Master. Does Master not like it? Shino reached out, petting Ying's head. Of course, I like it. But not now. My clones need to assist with the transportation, and we must rendezvous with Karina on the other side to ensure nothing goes wrong during the transfer process to our container. And we don't know if Zetsu will report this capture to Pain, so we must remain vigilant. Ying blinked her eyes playfully, placing her finger on her lip. But Master, Mistress's journey will be very long. In silence, Shino stared at Ying with intensity for a while before waving his hand, deactivating his Ganjutsu domain, causing Yakumo and Ying to fade away. Left alone in the forest, Shino gazed into the cloudy sky, hands clasped behind his back. I feel sorry for ruining an innocent girl like her, but she is simply meeting her original fate, only earlier. Pushing aside his remorse, Shino shifted his attention to his Reed clone, standing dutifully nearby, awaiting his orders. Go. Prepare yourself for the next battle. The decision to fight must always be the final option, Reed reminded solemnly. Shino shrugged. To save our worlds, we have no other choice. Reed let out a sigh before extending his hands, allowing them stretch out and grab onto the trees before propelling himself into the air. As he soared into the air, He spread his limbs while parts of his body stretched and flattened, allowing him to glide forward like a flying squirrel. As Reed disappeared from sight, Shino couldn't help but chuckle softly. Poor fellas like him exist as well. Perhaps the day he discovers the truth will be the day of his reset. With those final words, Shino's body transformed into a mass of bugs, dispersing as the hidden Zerg battery sunk into the ground, hiding itself and ready to launch an ambush to eliminate any pursuers that dared to investigate. Chapter 150, Unexpected Expenditures. As Shino assessed the holographic interface, displaying his depleted essence supply, a sense of frustration washed over him as he groaned over his cold and tight financial situation. Damn, our experiment to devour Fu's soul with Yakumo failed, and I almost thought we wouldn't be able to assimilate the Seven Tails. Who could have expected assimilating the Seven Tails alone would require this much essence? And the tailed beasts are already the weakened versions, split from the god tree meant for harvesting by the Otsuki. It seems we need to reevaluate the powerful beings like Kaguya. As Shino sensed the specially modified hatchery within his system space, its grotesque surface adorned with abnormal lesions of white skin, Shino finally felt a sense of relief knowing Chomai was obediently contained within. Their original goal was simply to acquire a chakra generator for their bugs. As his bug army grew in scale, relying on Zerg batteries to generate chakra solely for feeding the bugs became inefficient. Shino's intention was to cultivate more bugs to feed his Zergs and generate biomass, not the other way around. Thus, Shino had set his sights on the tailed beasts. While any of them could have served his purpose, he ultimately chose Chomai. Not only did it possess an insect-like form, but its Jinchuriki, the naive Fu, was an easier target compared to the other Jinchurikis. However, various circumstances had forced Shino to delay this acquisition. But now, he had finally secured Chomai. After carefully extracting and subduing the tailed beast, sealing it within their container, the assimilation process could finally commence. Shino had initially considered attempting to merge Chomai directly into his own body, hoping for instant assimilation. Yet, he ultimately decided against taking such a risk. While it would grant him a powerful energy source, it would come at the price of painting a conspicuous target on his back. And he won't be able to hide since he couldn't enter the system space himself. Furthermore, Shino didn't want any of the others to take on this risky endeavor either. The potential failure of assimilation could restrict their access to his system space, which may delay his follow-up plans. So, Shino and his team devised a way to house Chomai in a separate container, a Zerg under Shino's absolute control. That way, he could hide the sealed Chomai even if he fails to bring it into his system space. After numerous experiments and trials utilizing the tailed beast chakra secretly collected from Gaara and Naruto in the past, they ultimately settled on a hatchery as the optimal solution, one with the highest chance of success in meeting their intended goal. And the ultimate goal of this intricate scheme was to create a biomass generator hidden within Shino's system space. Chomai, the chakra generator, would not only provide a food source for his bugs, which could in turn serve as nourishment for his Zergs, but it would also thwart the intentions of certain villains. Since they were targeting him, Shino would disgust them by disrupting their plans. Furthermore, Shino felt a sense of security knowing that unless a six-path sage or a more powerful entity emerged, his system space would remain impregnable and undetectable. Even Dobi, with his Kamui ability granting him access to any location in the world, would be unable to reach a different space except his own. And if he enters by some miraculous coincidence, Shino harbored little concern. If anyone entered his world, it would be akin to a ship entering the Bermuda Triangle of the legends. If they weren't careful, their ship may capsize. In conclusion, this endeavor was both a pain and a pleasure for Shino. Pain because it demanded the expenditure of all the essence he had diligently accumulated, solely for the assimilation of this strange chakra life form. Chomai's consciousness far surpassed their initial expectations. Even though they had accounted for many of its abilities as displayed in the anime, as a multi-consciousness entity, the tailed beast's true power eluded their comprehension. The creation of all things technique was truly not simple, as the life form it birthed even exhibited a resistance to the Zerg's assimilation process. Had there been no progress, they might have given up in the face of this inexplicable power. Alas, they could sense and monitor the progress being made, driving them to persevere. And even though it wasn't a direct attack, this was also their confrontation against the higher existence. If they couldn't even do this much, then Shino should just give up and await the villain's predetermined fate arranged for him. Thus, once they commenced the assimilation process, they couldn't stop. It became a high-stakes gamble, with Shino relentlessly adding more chips in the hopes of not letting his investment go to waste and winning everything back. Fortunately, Shino's accumulation from his prior hard work and the additional efforts exerted during Chomai's assimilation proved fruitful. With the majority of his accumulation spent, he successfully assimilated Chomai before keeping her into his system space, gaining a biomass passive income stream and transforming his system space into a self-sustaining world. With everything proceeding smoothly and no unforeseen accidents, Shino couldn't help but be surprised that his capture of Chomai had gone unnoticed by the masterminds orchestrating the events. Of course, he was well aware that Hidden Waterfall Village had gone into a frenzy searching for Fu in secret, but he wasn't concerned. The leader of Hidden Waterfall Village seemed hesitant to alert other villages to the fact that their Jinchuriki was missing. Nevertheless, Shino knew he couldn't allow things to remain as they were. After all, he had other plans. Now, we can proceed to the next step of the plan, Shino declared, his excitement reaching its peak and causing a surge of throbbing within him due to the pressure regarding their upcoming plan. After all, the true target this time had always been one person, and Chomai had merely served as bait for their upcoming scheme, a dangerous one, yet Shino still furiously drove forward with relentless ambitions. Unfortunately, this time, even Karina was too exhausted to respond, sprawled on the bed next to Kiranai. And soon, on an ornate table in the room, Ying readily accepted his ambitions, despite his rough planning. Master. Ying's sultry voice resonated in the room as her hands caressed Shino's face. Gazing down at the masked beauty's tempting lips, Shino's voice became hoarse as he spoke. You know that permission belongs to your mistress alone. Ying understands. Her hands now lowered, her emotions hidden behind her mask, yet her face turning to the side to avoid his heated gaze spoke of her disappointment. But, Ying soon snuffed out her disappointment, returning to her role as a demoness. Clasping her hands over her chest in a prayer-like gesture, the demoness faced the edge of the table and opened her alluring mouth, inviting him with a soft whisper, Master, then please let Ying's mouth under its permission. With a dark grin, Shino freed himself from his tight predicament and approached the side of the table, taking the plunge into the cold pool and enjoyed the soft fluid movements as he cooled off at his own pace. As he reminded Ying of her permissions, Shino cast a glance towards Karina, who observed them with an approving smile. Are you satisfied, my little goblin? Karina let out a slight giggle before responding through their connection, not wanting to break the game they were playing. Shino, you know I wouldn't mind. It's just you setting up rules for yourself and them. You make me play the bad guy, but in reality, you're the one who's truly bad. Hearing Karina's teasing tone, Shino's eyes grew deeper as he became rougher, thoroughly enjoying the rules of their game. So, Karina, is everything ready? With a pout, Karina replied, naturally. After all, it seems my dear is quite impatient. Of course. Her utility value is incredibly high, Shino grinned, his gaze sweeping over Ying's pale skin and petite figure. True, Karina nodded in agreement as she sat up. We have researchers, but I am the only manager. With our growing army, it's becoming more and more challenging to handle everything alone. Kiranai alleviated some of the burden, but she isn't suited for this field. According to the data we obtained from spying on the Hidden Rain Village, we discovered their excellent management. It's evident that the so-called god cannot be the manager, as he hasn't even revealed himself to his citizens. Instead, it's the angel who is well known. It's clear who the adept #1 employee of the year is. Shino nodded, adding, in addition, she possesses something we truly desire. His words came to an abrupt halt as he failed to resist the suction force and a grunt of satisfaction escaped his lips. After a moment of silent bliss, Shino continued his heart-pounding explanation, delivering the remnants of his desires deep into his audience, all those explosive tags. They are both a source of wealth and a deadly weapon. Imagine equipping all our zergs with them. With her, all of our zergs can become a cost-effective alternative to our suicide zergs such as banelings and scourges. Despite their lethal death thrall, banelings are too slow to catch up with ninjas, while scourges have difficulty detecting ninjas. And using them as manual traps is too restrictive. Shino observed Ying swallowing multiple times in excitement as she clearly understood the possibilities. Karina's eyes also gleamed with anticipation as she approached Shino. I understand, Shino. There's no need for further excuses. If my dear wants her, then I will acquire her for my dear. Demonstrating her commitment, Karina sealed their agreement with a passionate kiss, ensuring Shino could trust her words. As Shino indulged in the blissful sensation that engulfed him both above and below, he couldn't help but be filled with excitement about the future that awaited them. As Karina parted slowly from Shino, Ying considerately interjected, Master, Mistress, it's ready. Hearing Ying's reminder, Shino grinned as he scooped Karina up in a princess carry. Since that's the case, let Operation Paper Folding commence. Karina, set the chess piece we buried into motion. Already on it, my dear. And ha. Ha. As Karina's melodious voice reverberated through the room, Shino then commanded Ying, prepare your teacher. She will also need to contribute. After all, our bait may attract not just one fish. There may be many, and Shino's eyes sparkled with a dangerous, fiery glint. Perhaps, His bait might even attract a shark. Chapter 151, Target Conan. Whoosh. 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 A trio dashed swiftly along the treetops of the forest, their black Akatsuki robes billowing in the wind. Among them, it was unmistakable that Kakazu and Itachi were present, their menacing presence felt by anyone who crossed their path. After a while, the group came to a sudden halt, their sharp eyes scanning the surroundings with caution. Itachi's Sharingan glimmered ominously, his face still betrayed no emotions as he calmly stated, "No one." Kakazu's gaze shifted towards his partner, Tobi, his voice dripping with ice as he questioned, "Are you absolutely certain that your fellow villager from your ninja village is here? This had better not be a waste of time." Tobi flicked his hair arrogantly, his confidence apparent as he retorted, "I missed the part where that's my problem." Kakazu clenched his teeth, a low chuckle escaping his lips. His arm detached, revealing the deadly tentacles as it lunged forward and coiled around Tobi's neck, slamming him forcefully against a nearby tree trunk. "Brat, you had better be telling the truth this time. The leader will not be pleased if he discovers you've been deceiving us. No amount of money will save you then. Now, tell me, where is the one who captured the 7 tails?" Tobi's legs flailed in the air, his voice strained as he pointed to his own neck, attempting to communicate through his gagging noises. Kakazu observed him in silence for a moment before finally releasing his grip, allowing Tobi to fall back onto the branch. "Don't try to play tricks with me, brat." Meanwhile, Itachi, who had been silently surveying the area, spoke in a hushed tone, "I'm afraid he already has, Kakazu." Kakazu furrowed his brow and turned his attention to Itachi, who directed his piercing Sharingan towards Tobi. "Where did you leave Conan?" With a sly grin on his face, Shino observed the situation from his hidden base's command room. "We did it so discreetly and yet he still managed to see traces. Impressive, as expected of Itachi, always perceptive when it comes to Genjutsu." Standing beside Shino, Kurenai sighed, shaking her head slightly. "He's a child prodigy, not bound by common sense. If he truly wanted to stop us, we might have faced failure, but it seems he has his reservations or plans regarding the situation. Perhaps it may also be his confidence." Shino nodded in agreement as he finished stretching, settling himself into a grotesque biomass chair with a peculiar biomechanical helmet securely fastened to his head. "Well, Kurenai, I trust your abilities. It's up to you to monitor the situation and implement the countermeasures should Itachi attempt to infiltrate my mind. I'll proceed with the plan. While the Tobi and Reed clones keep Itachi and Kakazu occupied, I'll assist Karina in capturing our target ASAP." Closing his eyes, Shino allowed the laboratory to fall into a hushed silence. Kurenai's gaze shifted to the screens, her eyes fixated on Itachi as she softly muttered, "I won't fail again." In the expansive forest, a flurry of white origami butterflies danced through the air before merging back into the form of a blue-haired beauty donning the Akatsuki attire. Konan maintained a neutral expression as she observed Itachi, Kakazu, and Tobi moving ahead. Her perception assured her that everything was fine, but her intuition continued to sound an alarm. Abruptly, Conan's gaze shifted towards a different area of the forest. Though she couldn't see anything, she sensed a presence. In a swift motion, her skin peeled away like paper, transforming into a river of paper that surged towards the location. It wrapped around an invisible figure, blanketing the opponent and gradually revealing the shape of a petite female. Conan prepared to tighten her hold to strangle her, but the opponent suddenly vanished, leaving the paper to collapse into emptiness. Could it be Genjutsu? But at this level, Itachi should have noticed, yet he didn't warn us, Conan muttered, her expression remaining neutral because she understood the disloyalty that some of their members harbored. Whoosh! Suddenly, a chain lunged from behind, cutting through Conan and causing her lower body to explode into fluttering pieces of paper. As the chain retracted empty-handed, Conan hovered in the air with her lower half missing. No, in fact, her entire interior body appeared missing. This was accentuated by her swaying Akatsuki cloak worn over her hollow interior. Unfazed by her condition, Conan calmly directed her attention towards the chain's origin as the paper fluttered around her, gathering back together, forming a pair of white wings on her back. The angel has descended. With a single thought, the paper feathers on her wings hardened into sharp weapons before relentlessly shooting out, attacking and tearing through the surrounding forest in a circular fashion, leaving destruction in their wake. As her assault concluded, white paper fragments fluttered through the air, a ceremonial farewell to those who perished. After a brief survey of the aftermath, Conan knew that her assault would surely bury ordinary adversaries. Yet Conan maintained her composed demeanor and vigilance, surveying her surroundings. The trees were gone, replaced by a bloodied landscape adorned with the remains of peculiar insects, but her true enemy remained elusive. Suddenly, Conan's wings shifted, folding in front of her and shielding her from a sudden surging wave of water that materialized in the air before her. Simultaneously, an origami version of herself emerged from her back, brandishing a kunai to deflect chains that sprouted from the void behind her. With a sweep of her sleeve, paper shurikens materialized around Conan and whirled through the air towards the source of the chains. Another set of chains emerged, skillfully deflecting the shurikens before intercepting the approaching paper clone. However, a fiery glow emerged on the clone as it promptly ignited and exploded. Boom. As the echoes of the explosion subsided, the chains vanished, returning the battlefield to silence. Drip. 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 Conan sensed the droplets falling upon her and slowly raised her gaze to the sky that had unknowingly become gray and cloudy. Rain began to pour, the droplets increasing in number as they cascaded down upon her, belting against the fluttering paper. Unaffected by the rain that rolled off her paper-formed body, Conan slowly lowered her gaze and her amber eyes locked onto the red-haired female figure that appeared before her, her eyes trembling slightly as she whispered, "Uzumaki?" On a different battlefield, a wicked grin spread across Kakazu's face. "Damn you, brat, but I'm glad because I've been waiting a long time for this moment." Whoosh! Kakazu's hand shot forward towards Toby, forcing him to leap into the air and run along the trees. Abruptly, Toby swiftly fired his web, latching onto another tree as he swung away, the tree behind him being smashed into pieces moments after his departure. As he swung through the air, Toby's other hand released bolts of webbing towards Kakazu, who chased after him, seamlessly leaping from tree to tree. Dodging the webs with precise and minimal movements, Kakazu steadily closed in on Toby. His grin widened as his arm propelled towards Toby like a rocket. "Brat, I've long understood all your tricks. You won't leave here alive today." "Oh, really? Then, how about this?" No longer donning the Akatsuki robe, Toby retorted cheekily, sweeping his hand and flinging his black jacket towards Kakazu's face while he took Kakazu's fist head-on, borrowing the force from the punch to launch himself away. "Petty tricks!" Kakazu exclaimed, raising his hand to sweep the jacket away. However, his eyes narrowed as he witnessed the jacket beginning to emit a fiery glow. As his black Spider-Man suit wrapped around his body, Toby grinned, "Fly." Boom. Meanwhile, Itachi calmly observed the explosive battle from a distance with his Sharingan, but his primary focus remained on the uncle figure with black facial hair and a peculiar blue bodysuit who had just landed before him, accompanied by a small team. "Reed Richards, the smartest man alive," Reed introduced himself, pointing towards a man by his side. "This is Black Bolt. With just a whisper from his mouth, he can kill you." The man, donning black body armor and a matching helmet, stood silently with his arms crossed, locking eyes with Itachi. Reed then directed attention to a woman with long hair holding a circular shield that shimmered in blue, red, and silver, with the symbol of the British flag at its center. "This is Captain Britain. She possesses superhuman reflexes, durability, and strength." Finally, Reed gestured towards a woman with short black hair and dark skin, dressed in armor with a metallic sheen. "Captain Marvel, Defender of the Cosmos." After introducing the team, Reed focused his gaze on Itachi with a grave expression. "You can't defeat us, Itachi. We are the Illuminati." Itachi calmly surveyed his opponents, his eyes slowly closing. Shing. With a swift motion, he reopened them, his Sharingan rotating. In a calm tone, Itachi questioned, "What Illuminati?" In response, Black Bolt, Captain Britain, and Captain Marvel gradually faded away, wiped from existence, leaving Reed standing alone. "For once, I am speechless," realizing the Genjutsu had been seen through, Reed sighed, stretching his fingers. "In less than 2 years. We'll all be dead. Why must we fight amongst ourselves? Instead, I think it's time for an outing to the library." After a moment of silence, Itachi declared with no change in expression, his voice steady, "I have a better idea." Suddenly, the sky transformed, and a colossal Sharingan materialized in the crimson-tinged world, casting its gaze upon Reed. Itachi's voice resonated throughout his domain, "Let's find out who is truly behind you." As the patterns on the Sharingan rotated, a spiritual force surged into Reed, following an intangible connection in search of its true mastermind. Chapter 152, Counterattack. Don't underestimate me. Although I don't possess any special KK Genkai, I still managed to rise as the top Genjutsu master of Hidden Leaf Village. Now that I have the power. The woman's voice echoed in Itachi's ears as he opened his eyes, finding himself bound to a cross. His gaze swept around the familiar yet transformed world he used to manipulate, now vibrant and vivid as if it had become a tangible reality. Despite the bewildering situation, Itachi's Sharingan calmly shifted towards the man and woman standing before him. He recognized the woman as Kurenai, now a trader of Hidden Leaf Village. As for the man, Itachi didn't immediately recognize him, but his Aburim attire linked him to the trader of his brother's generation. However, he couldn't recall the young man appearing this aged. "Kurenai Yui. And Shino Aburim?" Shino responded in a vague tone, blinking playfully. "Well, You can assume so, not that it matters much. He waved his hand, summoning chairs for himself and Kurenai to sit. Welcome to my world, Itachi Uchiha. In this world, space, time, and substance are all under my control. Well, I doubt I need to explain the rest to you, do I? Itachi silently observed Shino before shifting his gaze towards the composed Kurenai. It seems your KK Genkai is not inferior to mine when it comes to illusions. Shino rolled his eyes, aware of his own struggles. He may look relaxed, but in reality, his words were a bluff and an intense struggle was currently occurring in the background. Thanks to Kurenai's surprise counterattack, his immense spiritual power derived from multiple individuals, and his plundered Kurama bloodline limit from Yakumo, Shino could barely counter Itachi's Tsukimi and contend for control. However, Shino could sense the intense battle between his Genjutsu domain and Itachi's Genjutsu world, both vying for dominance in this merged realm. Of course, the merging of their worlds was merely a projection, a reflection of the clash between their Genjutsu abilities and spiritual force. And as time passed, the borders between the two domains gradually became more distinct, one side complete with color, the other side a monochrome world of red, black, and white, the default representation of Itachi's torture room. The reason for this? Despite holding the initial advantage, with every passing moment, Shino could feel Itachi's domain gradually eroding his control. Even now, he knew he wouldn't be able to harm or torture Itachi because this genius still managed to establish a barrier for himself despite his unfortunate circumstances due to the traps and defenses established by Kurenai. Nevertheless, Shino resolved to seek any advantage, even if it meant resorting to dirty tactics. In this spiritual world, other methods could still be employed. Kurenai-sensei, play the prepared video. Give Itachi a taste of the true essence of brotherly love. Nodding subtly, Kurenai focused her thoughts, conjuring a large holographic screen that materialized before the group. The screen flickered to life, displaying a meticulously prepared movie, ready to deliver a profound impact. The video flickered to life, revealing a cozy kitchen setting. The camera focused on the back of a familiar man, and Itachi calmly observed, his eyes unwavering. As the camera panned to reveal his own face on the man, even the sight of himself frying an egg with Sharingan displayed on the screen failed to elicit a reaction from him. Soon, a hearty and perfect breakfast appeared on the dining table, just as a familiar voice echoed from off-screen, "Nissan. Is breakfast ready?" Itachi's gaze locked onto his brother Sasuke, who appeared more mature than the last time they crossed paths. Breaking his silence, Itachi asked, "What are you trying to show me?" Shino blinked playfully, materializing a cup of tea in his hand and taking a sip before responding with a smirk, "Don't worry. We have 72 hours. Plenty of time for you to savor it slowly." The movie continued, depicting the heartwarming moments of brotherly love between Itachi and Sasuke, portraying what could have been if Itachi hadn't carried out the massacre of their clan. However, as the plot progressed, the narrative took a peculiar twist, heading towards a rather strange direction. "Nissan? Why are you touching me there? Training, my stupid Odantu. No. We can't do this, Nissan. Hate me, my stupid Odantu. Nuuyamat. Nissan." As the movie abruptly ended, Shino and Kurenai now found themselves pushed back a long distance from Itachi. Now, there is a distinct stretch of land separating them from Itachi, but their seating arrangement was now a secondary concern. Kurenai's face flushed with embarrassment, stealing occasional glances at Itachi. Meanwhile, Shino held a cup of tea to his mouth, but his hand remained frozen, allowing an endless stream of tea to spill out like a miniature waterfall, belying his shock over the content of a different culture. Still bound to the cross, Itachi kept his eyes closed, maintaining a facade of calmness. However, his slightly trembling eyelids betrayed the underlying emotions brewing within him. After a moment of silence, Itachi's eyes met Shino and Kurenai's, piercing through the boundaries of his domain and boring into Shino. "Is this all you wanted to show me?" he asked. Shino waved away the screen, his slightly trembling hand setting down his teacup as he muttered, "Ahem, I didn't expect her to generate something so intense." Itachi turned his gaze towards Kurenai, who averted her eyes, feeling the urge to defend herself but ultimately suppressing it. "If that is all," Itachi began, but was swiftly interrupted. "Wait!" Shino yelled, rising to his feet. "Ignoring the movie that was meant to delay time for the both of us, the truth is, I've come to bargain." Itachi remained silent, his intense gaze fixed on Shino. "Ahem. Let's make a deal, shall we?" Shino proposed, crossing his arms confidently. "One that concerns your brother." There was a brief moment of silence before Itachi calmly inquired, "What deal?" "Well, I've managed to infiltrate Orochimaru's bases with my spies. There's no need to ask me how, I'm sure we don't care about those small details," Shino explained. What concerns us in this deal is the fact that with these spies, I can provide you with monthly updates on Sasuke. His growth, his whereabouts, whether he is living well, if he has made any new friends, even his daily choice of underwear. How about it? Itachi closed his eyes, seemingly lost in thought. However, his voice boomed within the world, cold and unforgiving. There is no need for a threat like you to exist. In an instant, a giant Sharingan phantom materialized overhead like a blazing sun as Itachi's domain quickly eroded Shino's Genjutsu world, swiftly encroaching upon Shino and Kurenai's location with a sudden burst of momentum. Already prepared and vigilant, Shino sighed with exasperation as he swiftly retreated with Kurenai to the edge of the world. Ah, it seems negotiations have broken down. We have no choice. Kurenai, get ready. My little goblin, activate the backup plan. As Shino issued his command, the merged spiritual world began to violently tremble before shattering into pieces akin to broken tempered glass. In his last glimpse, Shino saw Itachi already broken free from his bonds, standing calmly and staring at their escape. Opening his eyes once more, Shino found himself in his hidden base, a throbbing headache accompanying his awakening. Rubbing his temples, he instinctively caught Kurenai, who stumbled under the weight of their shared burden due to the forced collapse. As their headaches slightly subsided, Shino let out a sigh of relief. As expected of Itachi. He cannot be underestimated. Even with our strongest cards, we barely managed to escape in the face of just one of his abilities. And we were even forced to employ a method that harmed both sides. On the other end, a crimson trail trickled down from Itachi's eyes, tainted with the aftermath of his Sharingan strain. His gaze swept over the pollen settling on the ground and the dissipating smoke before him, the remnant signs of the artificial humans desummoning. Shino Ibarame, he uttered, his voice laced with conviction. Itachi then shifted his attention to Kakazu, locked in a fierce battle with Tobi. The tattered remains of Kakazu's Akatsuki cloak spoke of the intensity of their clash. But now, it seemed Kakazu had unleashed his full power, and there should be no problems. But there was another matter that demanded Itachi's attention. Boom. A colossal explosion erupted in the distant forest, engulfing a significant portion of the woodland in searing flames. Swiftly scaling to the top of the tree, Itachi's eyes traced the source of the devastation. It should be over there, he murmured, his resolve unyielding. In an instant, with a swift flicker, Itachi vanished, leaving behind only the echoes of his presence. And at Itachi's intended destination, amidst the raging inferno, the black remnants of charred paper danced in the air, swirling amidst the smoky haze. From within the billowing fumes, Konan emerged, coughing up blood as she surveyed the scene. Her face contorted with shock as her gaze fell upon the cascading black liquid that rained from the grotesque abominations partially obscured by the smoky haze above. This isn't rain. This black liquid. Is it oil? She whispered, her voice laced with a mixture of surprise and disbelief. Genjutsu? Karina's playful voice cut through the air, taunting Konan. Well? Did you enjoy the taste of it? Ah, what's the phrase? Art is an explosion? She jeered. As she approached, Karina, her body encased in a resilient carapace armor that seemed impervious to the flames and explosions surrounding them, effortlessly deflected the paper shurikens launched in her direction. Konan's wings unfurled, ready to strike, but before she could, Karina vanished, reappearing behind her in a blur. A needle pierced Konan's neck from the side, but Konan's form exploded into a swirling tempest of paper moments after. Upon reforming nearby, Konan sank to her knees, her body trembling, her eyes never leaving her enemy as paper gathered beside her to form a giant shuriken. I would love to continue playing with you, but time is running out. My dear didn't allow me to share the burden, so I have no excuse to let you go. She licked the tip of her needle provocatively, savoring the moment. Not that I would want to. In another flash of movement, Karina vanished once more, a trail of fire drawn through the air due to the high temperature of the flaming battleground. In mere moments, Karina's foot connected with Konan's stomach, propelling her into the air. With a series of hand seals, Karina commanded, "Seal." Instantly, a colossal chakra barrier, constructed from her chains at an unknown time during the battle, shrunk inwards like a net, closing in from all directions, leaving no avenue of escape. Konan's narrowed eyes betrayed a sense of desperation as she realized the gravity of her situation. Just as Konan pondered the option of reverse summoning herself, a man cloaked in black abruptly materialized in the air behind her, as if he had been lying in wait there all along. Another set of chains swiftly erupted from his form, ensnaring Konan before she could react. Although these chains had a weakened strength and Konan could probably break free after a brief struggle, it was enough to momentarily suppress Konan's chakra and movements. And with that fleeting moment of delay, the rest of Karina's chains completed their enclosure, sealing Konan away completely. Her expression frozen in disbelief, Conan remained trapped within the confinements of the chains as Karina's hands moved to swiftly apply additional layers of seals. Then, Karina, with her wings unfurled, roughly cradled Conan's captive form as she ascended towards the sky, where the hovering overlord stained in black Trudoil awaited their arrival near the layer of gray, stormy clouds. In a blur of motion, Itachi traversed the battlefield, skillfully dodging swarms of relentless bugs. Whoosh! Emerging amidst the engulfing flames, his eyes locked onto the retreating figures of the large overlords in the sky. With a flicker of intensity, Itachi's Sharingan activated, casting its sharp gaze upon his target. Amaterasu. In an instant, the inky black flames materialized, swiftly engulfing the overlord and rapidly consuming its form. Boom. The air reverberated with a thunderous explosions as the blazing inferno erupted, reducing the once colossal figures to a crumbling wreckage. As black flames rained from the sky, Itachi surveyed the aftermath, his Sharingan flickering slightly. Escaped, he muttered quietly to himself. His Sharingan surveyed the charred battlefield, meticulously scanning the remnants of the seething flames. A sense of contemplation settled over Itachi as he gradually closed his eyes, his mind engulfed in silence as he considered how to write his report. Soon, he resolutely turned on his heel, calmly stepping through the searing hot embers, leaving the battlefield behind. High above the turbulent and brooding gray clouds, Karina let out a sigh of relief as the powerful thrusters embedded within her legs morphed back into their dormant state. Thank goodness Shino had the foresight to advise me to go up further, she murmured, a mix of relief and lingering trepidation in her voice. If not for that, even if I managed to survive, our hard-earned loot would have been lost. Those Uchiha clan members, each more ruthless than the last. With a discontented growl, Karina then allowed herself to glide forward, her keen senses fixating on another looming overlord in the distance, one that wasn't stained after serving as a crude oil transport. As she glided over, Karina glanced down at the unconscious blue-haired captive ensnared by her chains, the delicate paper flower adorning her disheveled blue bun now wilted and withered from their fierce battle. Poor flower, Karina mused with a hint of malice, her voice laced with sinister anticipation. Enjoy your last moments of peace because you will experience the true will of God soon. Chapter 153, Losses. As Shino observed his Toby clone disintegrate into sticky remnants, a melancholic sigh escaped his lips. Trading a clone for a single heart that could be replaced. What a loss. And I was starting to get used to watching his movies from time to time, he lamented. Well, I suppose Spider-Man 1 has retired. Who's next? Mr. Garfield or Tom? Or all three? Glancing down at Kurenai, who lay in his embrace, Shino gently rubbed her forehead to soothe her, his voice filled with concern. Kurenai-sensei, can you endure it? A single bead of sweat trickled down Kurenai's face as she opened her eyes, her crimson gaze fixed upon Shino, her reply coming with unwavering determination. No problem, Shino. With a heavy sigh, Shino carried Kurenai to a biochamber, carefully placing her inside. Rest well. Leave the rest to us, he reassured her. Kurenai nodded ever so slightly, her body relaxing as she descended into a deep slumber. The biochamber gradually sealed shut, while a nourishing fluid flowed into her body. Turning his attention to his system space and sensing Yakumo, who had also entered a dormant state within her enveloping black fog, relief washed over Shino as he confirmed both Yakumo and Ying's gradual recovery. Rubbing his forehead, still feeling the remnants of a persistent headache, Shino couldn't help but express his frustration. Damn it, the high casualty rate this time was all due to one person. The Mangekyo Sharingan is truly ridiculously overpowered. Checking the statistics on his Zerg and bug losses, Shino noted the small wave that was wiped out by Conan before their successful ambush. As well as the near decimation of an entire small army of Zergs and bugs. There wasn't even ashes left, leaving him no chance of recovering any biomass. It was all a consequence of his efforts to delay Itachi's advance towards Conan's battlefield. Despite his reduced chakra after Tsukuyomi, Itachi's mastery of fire-style techniques still proved devastating against his minions, but Shino had no choice. It wasn't until Itachi approached the oil-stained battlefield that he relinquished his destructive flames, settling for taijutsu and evading his bugs with exemplary body flicker techniques. If Itachi hadn't, this expedition's Zerg army would have been completely lost. Of course, he still had others, but it would still be a setback. It's truly scarier to fight Itachi than all the Jonins of Hidden Leaf Village combined, Shino mused with a hint of frustration. At least I could play the Jonins around with my Ganjutsu domain, but it's basically useless against Itachi. The Kurama bloodline Ganjutsu is overpowered, even working against the normal Sharingan, but against the activated Mangekyo Sharingan, it stood no chance. Perhaps even Kakashi may be difficult to handle once he masters initial control over Obito's Sharingan. Shino's heart was filled with lamentation as he reflected upon his own circumstances. He had worked tirelessly, taking risks and making calculated moves to attain his current bloodlines, but others seemed to possess extraordinary powers bestowed upon them from birth or as parting gifts from their comrades. The cruel reality of the world became glaringly apparent, emphasized even more in the ninja world. The world was unequivocally unfair. It was no wonder characters like Shino, Kiba, and Tenten gradually faded from the limelight. In the early stages, they may have dazzled with their abilities, but as the game progressed, their bloodlines proved insufficient for the challenges that lay ahead. As he pondered the unfairness of the ninja world, Shino couldn't help but reflect on his own transformation. Well, I'm a different Shino now. Kiba is abolished, and Tenten. If his life were a story, she wouldn't even get screen time. There's no use comparing ourselves to the originals. After all, I'm one of the fortunate few with an unfair advantage now. A faint chuckle escaped Shino's lips as he settled into his own biochamber, seeking much-needed rest. When Shino emerged from his slumber, he found himself greeted by the concerned countenance of Karina. A warm smile played on his lips as he stepped out of the chamber and enveloped Karina in his embrace, relishing her smell as she fretted over him. Shino. You should have heeded my advice and allowed me to share some of the burden. That way, my dear wouldn't have suffered for so long. Gently caressing her head, Shino chuckled softly. You already put yourself at risk by venturing onto the battlefield. I can't add to that risk and jeopardize your safety. Even though you can unsummon yourself, it requires perfect timing and reaction, something that may be hindered by spiritual damage. I don't want anything to happen to you. Karina pressed her lips together, raising her delicate fair hand to Shino's mouth. Bite me, she commanded. Raising an eyebrow in surprise, Shino considered for only a moment before he complied, clamping down onto Karina's fair skin, allowing both Karina's innate ability and his devouring ability to work in tandem, hastening his healing process under the melodious moans of Karina. As he released her arm, he held the weakened Karina within his sturdy embrace. Thank you, Karina, he expressed gratefully. Blushing, Karina pouted slightly and pecked him on the lips. Anything for you, Shino. Besides, my dear still has important matters to attend to. I've already checked her body, replacing all her piercings that may have tracking functions. Her ring has also been sent out to mislead any pursuers. Now, the rest will be left to my dear. Fully revitalized, Shino guided Karina towards a biochamber, urging her to rest within. He planted a gentle kiss on her forehead, his voice filled with reassurance. Don't worry. I'll handle the rest. Rest well, my little goblin. After the biochamber sealed, Shino silently observed the closed chamber for a while. A lover like her is really hard to come by. Alas, she met a scum like me. Shino then pivoted on his heels, his strides unwavering and resolute as he made his way towards the prison. Stepping into the gloomy prison, the corridors loomed before him, dimly lit and foreboding. Eventually, Shino halted before a secure, sealed chamber, its biomechanical locks responding obediently to his command. With a creak, the gate swung open, unveiling a dimly illuminated cell, devoid of any furnishing save for a solitary figure huddled on the floor, leaning against the walls of the cell. With her arms wrapping around her knees and her face buried in it, blue hair and a withered flower bun were the only visible signs of her identity. At the sound of the gate opening, Conan lifted her head slowly, her ember eyes meeting Shino's steady gaze as he entered the cell. With a creak, the gate slammed shut behind him, trapping them within the small cell. Silently, Conan observed Shino, her countenance remaining neutral and impassive. Gradually, he approached her, extending a hand to gently lift her chin with a finger, scrutinizing her striking features. He ran his finger over the black lawbreak piercing on her chin, a gesture both intimate and disconcerting. Jiraiya was right. You're definitely a catch, he remarked. Conan's eyes flickered momentarily before settling back into an undisturbed calmness. Her voice echoed coolly within the confines of the cell. Pain will not let you go. Oh. Shino responded in a curt tone. He withdrew his finger, allowing her chin to lower once more. It appears you still don't understand your situation. Conan calmly closed her eyes, revealing her lavender eyeshadows as she replied in a calm voice, I am well aware. Oh really? With sudden swiftness, Shino's hand shot out, seizing Conan's wrist and hoisting her up with a single hand. He pressed her against the cold prison wall, their faces mere inches apart. Conan's expression remained neutral, her amber eyes that had snapped open locked onto his, devoid of resistance. Arching an eyebrow, Shino's gaze trailed up Conan's slender, well-toned arm, eventually settling on her orange-painted nails. Simultaneously, his other hand snaked up to the high collar encircling Conan's neck, slowly unzipping her Akatsuki robe. As Conan's Akatsuki garment cascaded to the ground, Shino's eyes drank in the sight of her revealing dark navy blue robe. Its large hemline exposed strategic glimpses of her well-toned body, From her arms to the sides of her ample breasts to her belly with her navel surrounded by 4 additional piercings. Further down, her long, sleek black pants clung to her curves, accentuating the contours of her legs, which were elevated by her white high heels. With a heated gaze, Shino's hand tightened around Conan's neck as he leaned closer to her ear, absorbing the faint scent of paper as he whispered a question. Conan, do you understand the consequences when an Akatsuki member sheds their outfit? Conan remained silent, her eyes gradually shutting, her expression still neutral, yet her tightly pressed lips hinted at the turmoil within. Legend has it. Removing the Akatsuki garb is the true reason for their downfall. Although I suppose Kakazu got lucky this time, Shino remarked playfully, his grip around Conan's neck easing as his hand slowly traced down her throat. Conan's lavender eyelids quivered subtly, but she offered no further reaction. An eerie hush enveloped the cell as Shino sought to provoke a response after settling upon the hills. Yet, met with Conan's unwavering neutrality, his hand continued its descent, trailing past her navel as his voice took on a soft tone. Oh, I happen to possess other secrets. Perhaps they might pique your interest. Secrets such as the true masterminds behind Yahiko's death. Would you like to know, Conan? Sensing the unveiling of her vulnerable lower body, Conan pressed her lips together, her lavender eyelids trembling before fluttering open, fiercely meeting Shino's playful gaze. Yet despite her fierce glare, her face remained stoic, devoid of any demands or pleas. With a dark chuckle, Shino firmly gripped her sculpted leg, hoisting it up and pressing it against the wall as he closed the distance between them, his voice oozing with satisfaction as he posed a tantalizing question. Conan, do you know what will happen next? Locking her amber gaze with Shino's intense eyes, Conan's own eyes remained firm and fierce as she delivered her chilling retort. Do your worst. Chapter 154, played with an ugly frown etched upon his face, Zetsu turned, his gaze fixated on the distant silhouette of Hidden Rain Village, the relentless gloomy rain pelting down, mirroring his own emotions. That Nagato, he muttered, his voice heavy with a mix of disappointment and realization. I thought he had forsaken all his emotions after the death of his friend, but this recent display shows that he has merely buried them deep within. White Zetsu, ever inquisitive, posed the pressing question. Will it affect our plans? A cunning smirk played across Zetsu's lips as he responded. A tool with emotions can still prove to be a valuable asset. His goals now align with ours, as we both seek to eliminate that troublesome variable. His voice carried a sense of satisfaction, as if relishing in the newfound opportunity presented by Nagato's lingering emotions. But we still haven't located the whereabouts of that annoying brat, White Zetsu grumbled, frustration seeping into his words. Even the Rinnegan, with its vast powers, fails to sense his location. He cleverly employed the ring to mislead us. That infuriating brat could be anywhere, and with his destruction of our White Zetsu forces, it has only further complicated matters as our eyes are now limited. And that Uchiha, he is unwilling to cooperate, saying he won't waste time helping us solve a childish feud we started, he added, his voice tinged with dissatisfaction. Zetsu's eyes burned with a fiery intensity as he uttered a curse. Damn him, just because he is another disobedient tool. If only he were here. A veil of silence fell between the Zetsu, their communication coming to an end as they slowly sunk into the ground. However, it remained unknown whether their words held genuine truth or if they were artfully crafted to deceive the nearby spies, dancing on the thin line between disclosure and misdirection. In a lit prison cell, a blue-haired beauty with an athletic, toned body was bending over as she slowly slid her plain black undergarments up her toned legs. As the black fabric neared its destination, her movements paused momentarily as her gaze fixated on a foreign substance, but soon she continued with determination, seamlessly securing the undergarments in place. Even in the face of the inner turmoil seeping out into the fabric of her reality, her expression remained neutral, unchanged. Eventually standing upright, Conan fixated her eyes on the navy blue robe sprawled on a nearby couch, an incongruous addition to the cell conjured by the man seated upon it, his legs spread apart as he leaned back, watching the broadcast on the myriad of holographic screens in their vision. Sensing Conan approaching within his periphery, Shino shifted his attention away from the holographic screens that captivated his vision. His eyes then traced Conan's alluring physique as she silently donned her revealing robe, his gaze eventually fixated onto the stains, a symbol of his efforts. As Conan strolled across his vision towards her pants strewn on the ground, Shino's gaze traveled with her, but before she could depart from his range, his hand shot out, gripping her wrist and pulling her onto his lap. Feeling the skin-to-skin contact below, his arm snaked around her waist, ensnaring her, yet Conan's expression remained unaltered as she obediently settled on his lap, her gaze still focused on her pants. Amused, Shino turned her face towards him, a chuckle escaping his lips. A full week of non-stop effort, you are truly a tough nut to crack, Conan. Your forceful methods are wrong. Loyalty is never coerced, it is cultivated, Conan replied in a cold tone, her expression unwavering despite Shino's roaming hand. Oh? Shino's interest piqued. Much like peace? Conan fell silent, her gaze transfixed on the screen displaying the mobilization of Hidden Rain Village's ninjas under the command of one of the Six Paths Pain. Receiving no response, Shino's hand caressed her thighs as he posed the question. You understand what he is doing, and you now know the truth and your true enemies. Yet, you won't stop him? After a moment of silence, Conan's voice resonated with calm resolve. No. Why? Shino inquired, his hand delving further. Conan's eyelid quivered subtly before she responded, because he is Nagato, the one who inherited Yahiko's will. I am but the support that upholds our bridge. How loyal, Shino uttered in a teasing tone, turning her face towards him. His finger traced Conan's lips as he declared with a dark grin, but now, you belong to me. I eagerly anticipate enjoying the first expression of your loyalty, Conan. Silently, Conan's amber eyes fixated on Shino as she gracefully rose, propelled by his gentle push. Maintaining a neutral expression, she calmly proposed, I can do it below. I've already had enough of that during the past week. Now, let's try something fresh. Leaning back on the couch, Shino regarded Conan with a dark grin. Conan, I want you to show me that I can trust you enough to unseal your true abilities. Why? Unwilling? Conan offered no response, her eyes betraying some fierceness as she glared at Shino, yet her face was devoid of emotion as she gracefully knelt down, placing her hands on Shino's thighs. Her expressionless countenance inched closer, briefly pausing and letting her hot breath be the vanguard before her lips parted. Watching the scene unfold, Karina's jealousy reached a boiling point. Biting down on a handkerchief, she tugged at it while grumbling, seriously. It's been more than a week. Stinky Shino, so obsessed with a new woman that he forgets about us. Kurenai glanced at the seething Karina before briefly glancing at the holographic display. A slight smile graced her lips as she relished the relaxing break. It's not bad to have another to share our burden. Returning her focus to her studies, Kurenai continued evaluating her shortcomings when it came to dealing with Itachi, drawing inspiration from his Tsukaimi to improve Shino's Ganjutsu domain. Observing Kurenai's lack of reaction, Karina tossed the handkerchief aside, slumping back in her seat, tapping on the holographic interface displaying a model of Conan. Pouting, she let out an exasperated sigh. At least she contributed to the hive. 4 clone units of computation power and approximately 5 acres of expansion to the system space, just like me. No wonder she was so difficult to assimilate. Kurenai blinked, her gaze fixed on Karina with surprise. No, Karina. You should be the truly remarkable one, contributing as much as a powerful S-rank ninja despite being assimilated at a young age. Aren't you around the same age as Shino? Karina shook her head slightly while updating some modules and permissions in the system. It's not the same. My assimilation granted me this level of power due to my unique merging situation. Conan, on the other hand, solely contributes this astounding amount. Although her age played a role, but it's undeniable she is a genius, especially with her paper ninjutsu that transforms her entire body. It's akin to the natural devil fruits in the pirate world, something even I can't replicate at the moment. As Karina delved into analyzing Conan's abilities now stored in their extensive database, she couldn't help but express frustration. Perhaps if I hadn't known her weaknesses and faced her alone, without Shino's Ganjutsu domain and Ying's assistance, I would have lost. Of course, this may be because I was aiming to capture her. If my intention was to kill her, there would have been numerous methods with the Zergs under my command and the oil dug from the land of wind. But these are not excuses. Her gaze soft and calm, Kurenai offered words of comfort. Karina, you don't have to burden yourself with such pressure. To Shino, perhaps you're the only one who is indispensable. There's no need to compare yourself to others since everyone has their unique strengths. Besides, isn't she under your command in the end? Well, that's true, Karina said with a slight grin as she finished optimizing their new manager's Zerg transformation. Don't worry, Kurenai. You don't have to speak up for her. I know it in my heart and I won't mistreat her, even if my dear is enchanted by her. After all, for me, Shino is always the priority. Instead, you should be more concerned about Ying. Look at her. I can feel her jealousy all the way over here. Staring at the screen displaying Ying waiting silently outside the prison cell, Kurenai let out a sigh. Her lips curved into a smile as she responded, well, it must have rattled her to have another person suddenly appear above her. I'll have a talk with her. With a playful glint in her eyes, Karina made a suggestion in a relaxed tone, stretching her fingers. It's good that she knows her place, but it wouldn't hurt to give her some motivation. You can let her know that a promotion is not impossible, but it will depend on her performance. If the worst-case scenario ever happens, I hope she understands when the time comes. Even within their small circle, there were rules and class distinctions set by Karina: queen, concubine, maid, and slave. Karina is the only queen. She and Conan would be the concubines. Ying was a maid due to her previous mistakes. And Natsui was naturally. Kurenai understood Karina's implications, and she nodded in agreement. Kurenai returned to her work. Leave it to me. Karina then brought up another set of monitors, displaying the diminishing signals from Hidden Leaf Village. Most of their gathered intel now came from the Aburame clan members ever since Hidden Leaf Village implemented their cleansing policy for bugs. Frowning, she muttered, Hidden Leaf Village has been rather peculiar lately. More ninjas have returned and remained within the village instead of going on missions. Unfortunately, our database doesn't cover this time skip in the original story, making it frustrating to analyze their intentions with limited information. Kurenai glanced at the monitors, her expression tinged with worry. She murmured, "This seems like a sign of the village preparing for large-scale operations. However, it's impossible to determine the specifics. The village usually keeps such plans tightly under wraps, even from the participating ninjas until the moment of departure or even after." Karina toyed with her red hair, twirling a lock around her finger. Her mind raced, connecting Kurenai's brief reminder with the deliberately chosen words of Zetsu. She mused, "Oh, I hope their target isn't who I suspect. Otherwise, Shino won't simply let them off with just mere playing around like before." Chapter 155, Network Spreads in the Land of Earth, Sushi Kage Office. The atmosphere was heavy as Onoki's eyes flickered with concern as he leaned forward, his white beard trembling with every stroke of his hand as he examined the contract scroll on his desk. "The lurker species. Have we analyzed their abilities?" Onoki asked, his voice steady and calm. The Hidden Earth Anbu bowed respectfully. "Yes, Sushi Kage-sama. This strange insect clan appears defenseless above the ground, but when burrowed into the earth, they can launch a devastating barrage of dense bony spikes, powerful enough to impale even high-ranking Jonin's earth walls. But their source remains undetermined, as they refuse our attempts at reverse summoning and we couldn't track the ones who left the scroll." Onoki's brow furrowed in deep thought. "Very suspicious indeed. And these insects' attacks are sinister enough. If we were to use them in battle, do you think it would draw condemnation from other ninja villages?" The Anbu nodded in agreement as he replied, "Then, Sushi Kage-sama, I will notify the others to stop Thud." Onoki's hand patted the scroll on the desk as he declared, "Such sneaky methods, we must not allow such a useful tool to eat dust. Bring the scroll, and find more potential contractors immediately." The Anbu hesitated for a moment, seemingly torn by Onoki's decision, but he ultimately nodded, "As you command, Sushi Kage-sama." As the Anbu left with the scroll, Onoki's gaze lingered on his retreating figure, his eyes filled with a hint of disappointment. "Our village's ninja population is so high, but the younger generation lacks true outstanding talent. This temporary peace, how long can it last?" He sighed and shook his head. "Against enemies, I have abandoned my morals long ago, and if it ensures the strength and survival of the Hidden Stone until a worthy successor appears, I don't mind keeping it that way." Meanwhile, in the Land of Lightning, Hidden Cloud Village, Raikage Office, a figure sat regally behind a formidable desk, exuding an air of strength and authority. His dark, bronzed skin seemed to absorb the flickering shadows, highlighting the sharp contrast with his striking white hair, meticulously combed back to reveal a face adorned with a small, well-groomed mustache and goatee. This battle-hardened presence was none other than the Kage of Hidden Clouds Village, the Raikage, whose identity was veiled under the cryptic title of A legacy passed down from generations past. The mighty A sat behind his desk, studying the mysterious contract scroll with intense scrutiny. He directed his question at the Hidden Cloud Anbu standing nearby. "Have we found out how this scroll ended up in our village?" The Anbu's response was regretful, "No, sir. We are still investigating." A waved him off and dismissed him. His attention then shifted to one of his most trusted right-hand man, a dark-skinned man who stood tall and imposing with a slightly bulbous nose and shaggy, white hair that concealed one eye. He carried a cleaver-like sword on his back and wore a high-collared, sleeveless uniform with loose-fitting pants, and a one-strap over one shoulder Hidden Cloud flak jacket. I knocked on the table and asked, "Darui, what are your thoughts on this scourge species?" Darui's bored eyes briefly came to life as he looked at A, his hand casually rubbing his neck. "Basu, I'll just listen to your decision." A's patience waned, and he growled, "Darui, I asked for your opinion, your opinion." Darui blinked, slightly taken aback by A's reaction. "Ah, sorry, Basu," he said with a lazy smile. "But hasn't Basu already made a decision?" As fixed his gaze on the report he had received about the scourges. "Ha. You're right. With these flying suicide bombers, I want to see how long that dirty old Onoki's flying technique can. Before he could finish his sentence, an abrupt loud ruckus from the village caught his attention. Recognizing the familiar yet deadly music, A's face hardened, his fists slamming down onto his desk as he abruptly stood up, soon bounding towards the window, shouting, "B!" Darue's bored eyes took in the scene, the shattered glass and the splintered remnants of the table, before he gracefully approached the contract scroll. With utmost care, he brushed away the wooden debris that had settled upon it, almost as if he was tending to a delicate relic. "Sorry for boss's rough treatment. Boss didn't mean it." His voice, soft and remorseful, carried in the air as he offered an apology to no one in particular. Perhaps it was the desk. Or maybe it was the service providers. And at this moment, a dark-skinned kunoichi, with green eyes and light gray hair worn in a bun, strolled into the office. She was dressed in a formal attire consisting of a long-sleeved, high-collared dress shirt, skirt, and a pair of long earrings. Clutched in her hands against her ample assets was a stack of documents, denoting her role as a secretary. She was the assistant of the Raikage, Mibui. The two loosely hanging bangs of her light gray hair swayed slightly as she took in the scene before letting out an exasperated sigh. "I was only gone for 10 minutes. How many times has it been this week?" "Sorry." In the land of wind, Kazekage's office, Gaara faced the mysterious contract scroll with unwavering determination. He rolled it up and handed it to his sister, Temari, with a serious expression. "Keep it locked up," Gaara instructed her firmly. Temari looked at the scroll with uncertainty. "Gaara, are you being too cautious? It's just some bugs, and using this as a reward could help you the approval of the ninjas in the village. After all, right now, your role is no different from being locked down because they simply want to keep you under observation." Gaara continued to sort through the documents, his voice steady. "Those bugs gives me the same feeling as the strange structure that hurt you. It is not a good thing. Even my san trembles when coming into contact with them." "Mother." Temari's eyes filled with comprehension as she realized the seriousness of the situation. She nodded and carefully put away the scroll. "I trust you, Gaara. But what about the others? Once they find out about this scroll?" "I'll convince them," Gaara responded with unwavering conviction. The sand around him shifted slightly, as if conveying his unspoken determination. A drop of sweat rolled down Temari's face, letting out a sigh before she left the office. Different ninja villages had their own choices regarding the utilization of this new tool, but all of this were taken into account by the mastermind behind the dissemination of this tool. In the lit lab, Shino was sifting through the recordings of the events, combing through important nodes related to his upcoming plans and meticulously taking notes in his virtual notebook, modifying his virtual mind map as necessary. However, when Shino sensed fluctuations from a new unique connection, his focus was soon drawn from his work to a distracting sight in the lab, the hatching of a beauty, one who has fully integrated with a special cursed seal developed through his own bloodline. Shino's grin widened as he observed Conan completing her transformation. The alluring sight of her toned legs stepping out from the larva, glistening with sticky, transparent fluids, was mesmerizing. As the larva collapsed behind her, merging into her now transformed body, Shino's heated gaze remained fixed on her. Unperturbed by his intense stare, Conan calmly moved towards her neatly folded clothes, efficiently slipping them on. But her composure wavered slightly when Shino's arms wrapped around her waist from behind, pulling her close to him. Still, Conan's expression was neutral, her voice tinged with resolve. "I still have tasks to attend to." Shino leaned in, his lips grazing her ear as he demanded in a soft voice, "You can do them after we finish our training." "It's Karina-sama's orders." Conan started but stopped herself, biting her lip to suppress her voice. Her eyes flickered with a brief moment of fierceness before returning to their usual calmness. Shino seemed to have caught the change in her expression, shown to him through a private communication channel by the considerate Karina, who brewed hope with sinister intentions. Yet the situation only caused Shino's dark grin to widen, his heated voice fanning the flames. "Don't worry. We have plenty of time. Karina is currently visiting my parents with my clone. She won't know about this." Hearing Shino's words, Conan realized there was no hope of escaping this situation. Yet still unknown to her who just joined, she never had any hope from the very beginning. In Hidden Leaf Village, the Aburame compound, two masses of bugs emerged from the ground, transforming into the figures of Shino and Karina. Shino looked around his familiar room, pleased to see it was still clean despite his absence. Karina playfully pinched Shino's waist to get his attention and asked with mischief in her tone, "How do you like the game I designed with our new member?" With a grin, Shino dotingly rubbed Karina's nose and replied, "Not bad. But what made my jealous little goblin set up this game? It's unlike you, Karina." Karina wrapped her arms around Shino's and pouted, "I also want to keep my dear all to myself. But our new member is too strong-willed, still retaining some rebellious mentality through her strong will alone." Even though she has come under our control, it's best for her to go through a training session with my dear to ensure any hidden danger is snuffed out. Her lips curving in a sly smile, Karina continued, but even with my control, with her paper ninjutsu akin to natural devil fruit, she can partially transform her body with ease to disrupt my dear's satisfaction. So, I set up this game to ensure she compromises, offering her limited protection through work, but only when I am there. With this, she will recognize my authority and my dear can also enjoy himself. And as time passes, she will eventually fully become yours. Embracing Karina, Shino chuckled with a content expression. Karina, you always find ways to benefit me. And I'm always willing to, Shino, Karina declared happily, nuzzling against him. But it still feels better with my dear's real body. Petting her head, Shino assured her, I will dote on you when I return. As they stepped out of the room together, they encountered Shino's father, Shibi, waiting by a familiar table. Shibi's gaze fell on them, and he spoke in a low tone, you shouldn't have returned. Well, with me and you together, no one will come to bug us. So, I brought Karina home to visit. Confidently, Shino adjusted his glasses and lifted a scroll in his hand, and... Father, I heard you resigned from your counselor position, and ever since another member in the clan replaced you, another faction had been rising up in the clan. You've been able to hold on to the clan head position due to your strength, but some clan elders are already dissatisfied. So, I brought a gift you could use to appease the clan. Shino shook the scroll in his hand and tossed it to his father. Shibi caught the scroll, unfurled it, and raised his brow as he saw its content, a contract with the guardian species? Shino nodded, patting Karina's booty to signal her to head to the kitchen before settling down at the table, and explained, an insect species capable of flight and launching explosive globs of acids accurately over long distances. Comprehending the value with Shino's brief explanation, Shibi quietly kept the scroll, waiting for Shino to continue. With a slight curve of his lips, Shino directly posed his next question. I also came back to confirm if Hidden Leaf Village as target is really. His eyes sharpened, and he stated firmly, us. Chapter 156, War Prepa. Karina playfully raised a chopstick towards Shino's mouth, offering a saucy wintermelon chunk. He obediently enjoyed the taste of the food delivered to him. It's been a while since I had Mom's braised wintermelon with minced pork. Karina picked up a piece of pork with her chopstick and closed her eyes in pleasure as she savored it. Mom does cook well. Don't worry, my dear. When I went to ask Mom about the mirage technique, I helped her cook and made sure to learn the recipe. Oh, good. Shino nodded happily before asking, so, what did Mom say? Kurenai, sitting at a nearby tea table and drinking sake, perked up her ears as her red eyes turned towards Karina, her interest piqued. Karina shook her head with disappointment. I thought it would be a lead, but Mom said it was passed down from the ancestors, along with a couple of other techniques. I've collected them into the database, but the rest are rather fragmented, and this mirage technique was the most complete. She pulled up an interface displaying a list of the incomplete techniques and slid it over to Kurenai, who looked on with interested eyes. Karina continued, however, Mom did warn us to be careful because your ancestors are a bit special. There is a curse on their bloodline that results in their low presence. The curse worsens when any member with the bloodline tries to stand out, even affecting close relatives. Mom said her presence has been a bit higher recently, and it's not a good thing for us. Really? Shino fell into deep thought as he took another bite of the food, his hand subconsciously petting the head of Ying, who was enjoying her special meal of sausage. That would explain some things, but why is our bloodline so special to be rejected by the world? Recalling something, Karina bit on the chopsticks and replied, perhaps your ancestors are aliens? But then again, so is the ancestor of Chakra, and technically all ninjas are outsiders. It doesn't seem like this world would target foreigners that badly. Shino's eyes twitched slightly as he muttered, maybe the world really did. After all, Kaguya was sealed away, and the tragedy in Boruto happened. The lounge fell into silence, the only sound filling the room being deliberate eating sounds as they continued to enjoy their meal. Damn, and with my Zergs in the mix, no wonder I'm so heavily targeted. Although Father told me that the Abdurrahim clan had been shut out from the recent news, he did mention that the true perpetrator behind the mobilization this time is Denzo. And knowing him, it can't be a good thing, especially with his possible connections with those villains of Akatsuki. Shino's frustration laced his voice as he stood up, his hands reaching out to grip the smooth locks of brown hair, ready to send his specially prepared meal to the moon. As he vented his frustration wantonly, Shino consumed the wintermelon chunk delivered to his mouth. After swallowing, he asked, it never feels good to let that bad old man have the initiative. Have we found Denzo's hideout? Karina nodded as she offered a bite of rice to Shino's mouth. During our last raid on Hidden Leaf Village, we failed to infiltrate Root, but I have confirmed the location of their hidden base. Conan's ring had also been recently planted in his base. Good. The room fell silent with the exception of the muffled voices coming from the full mouth enjoying its meal. Soon, Shino grunted, his movements coming to a halt. After a long pause, he released his hand and sat back down, his gaze shifting from the alluring sight of Ying to the masked Yakumo leaning on the side of the couch like a doll. If only Yakumo were as lively as you, Ying. After swallowing her meal in excitement, Ying leaned forward to lick the utensils clean before responding, Master, don't mind Yakumo's cold treatment. But if cold treatment is what Master enjoys, Ying can do it even better. Indeed, your cold treatment is really good. Better than someone, Shino uttered as he shifted his gaze towards Conan, who sat across from Kurenai. Her expression remained neutral as she focused on drawing and applying seals to her newly upgraded paper ability, strengthened through the integration of the genetic data of the special wood used in making the paper for sealing scrolls. Floating in the air beside her were pieces of white paper that automatically folded themselves into a variety of origami shapes based on the templates displayed in the holographic interface within the corner of her vision. At the same time, there were holographic documents hovering in her main field of vision, allowing Conan to mentally write up detailed reports of her duties, keeping track of logistics in a refined, traditional format. Of course, since these documents are created and stored on a virtual database, one could say that this was Conan's method of going paperless. The benefit of this? Karina had always been keeping track of all data, but most data are kept as floating variables or in their raw forms as visual and audio formats. After all, Karina didn't have enough time to organize all the data, especially since she had other important duties to attend to, such as research or real-time monitoring and filtering of world events collected by their Zergs. So, most data were aggregated and stored in the database in its raw format, while Karina only prioritized parsing the ones according to their current needs. The rest were archived, many left unseen and unorganized. Now, with Conan, the other leftover data are gradually being organized in a readable format, ready to be printed or distributed if ever necessary. Conan's personal analytics and comments were also included, providing another level of insight to their data, bridging connections between different events, and bringing their attention to details that may have been overlooked. This would ensure many tiny details, that may have been deemed coincidences, won't be missed so easily in the future. This wasn't something they had ordered, but a personal habit of Conan. As an experienced manager of an entire ninja village, Conan brought many benefits to her new job without the need of any extra training. Of course, special training was still necessary to ensure this new employee met the company's standards. As he recalled a recent training session, Shino's heated gaze fixated on Conan's lips, soon sensing his own reinvigoration. Sensing his intense stare, Conan briefly turned her cold gaze towards him, letting some white paper gather to form a paper wall between them to block out his gaze before returning her attention to her work. With a gentle touch, Karina redirected Shino's gaze towards her, stuffing a piece of braised pork into his mouth. Shino, I won't let you touch her under my watch. Playfully blinking his eyes, Shino replied, patting the sitting Ying's head, okay, I understand, my little goblin. Feeling the coolness envelop him once again, Shino's mind cleared as he turned his gaze towards Conan, her figure clearly displayed by the holographic X-ray vision Karina considerately provided. Karina, how is the message we sent to our friend in Hidden Rain Village? After learning the truth about the masterminds behind Yahiko's death, has there been any indication that the secret cooperation between Hidden Rain Village and Hidden Leaf Village has been terminated? Karina sampled a piece of wintermelon before responding, not at the moment, Shino. We planted Conan's ring near the root base, and he should have sensed it. Adding on to the message delivered by Conan's paper butterfly, he should have believed the truth. But it seems he is not foolish enough to confront Hidden Leaf Village head-on. It appears that my dear's plan to give Hidden Leaf Village some trouble has failed. Shino chuckled, his eyes fixed on Conan. Is that why she is so willing to send the message? Because she predicted his reaction? But I would have expected the man who calls himself God to be more aggressive and impulsive, but his reaction was different. Why? Did he hesitate because Conan is not there to defend his main body? After all, they both never trusted Zetsu and Madara, and it's even more impossible now. Perhaps. But isn't it better this way, my dear? After all, if Pain were to attack Denzo, it would affect Hidden Leaf Village, and your parents are still there, Karina reasoned, feeding the last bite of the bento to Shino. As he swallowed the final morsel, Shino declared, well, I already gave them an escape route. Handing the empty bento box to a Zerg for disposal, Karina voiced her concerns, but, Shino, are you sure it's okay to reveal Trun's presence in the capital? Leaning back, Shino encircled his arm around Karina's waist. It's fine. With Trun now, he shouldn't be willing to betray, especially not my father and mother. Although we didn't assimilate Trun, we freed him from his cursed seal, And with his bugs completely under our control, the risk of betrayal is low. And even if he does return to Denzo, we will know firsthand, and it may even bring us some benefits, as his bugs would unknowingly be our spies. Alas, so far, there have been no signs of this. So this retreat route should be safe. It was originally prepared for us, but since I didn't use it, it can be the last act of filial piety for them. Wearing a worried expression, Karina asked, but what if they choose not to use it? Shino sighed, exasperated. If the time comes and they truly want to remain loyal to Hidden Leaf Village and not escape, then I can only honor their decision. Karina tenderly caressed Shino's face, offering comfort. Don't worry, Shino. Even if your family is gone one day, we will always be here for you. Shino felt a wave of gratitude for Karina's presence, yet he couldn't help but playfully rap her forehead with his hand. Don't set any death flags. Always is the favorite phrase that unscrupulous authors like to bury with their plot holes. Karina playfully rolled her eyes and gently patted Ying's head as a signal. My dear is worrying about nonsensical things again. Instead of concerning yourself with existences beyond the fourth wall, why not focus on our upcoming battle? There have been no signs of our base being discovered, but there's a 76% chance that we are the target of this operation. Don't ask how I came up with that arbitrary number and just consider it the power of I. But, I can assure you it is highly accurate, although the main battlefield is not confirmed. It could be our base or our growing cult in the capital. However, given Hidden Rain Village's mobilization, the former seems more likely because our base is near the borders. Shino smiled softly. Well, it's fine if they come. Most of the important components of our base are already stored in the system space, and we can leave at any moment. If we manage to escape, they won't be able to chase us down. After all, the war tools we provided to the other villages for free should come in handy. Can they remain idle once they notice Hidden Leaf Village's mobilization? Even if they can, accidents may occur. Hey. Indeed. Karina wore a mischievous smirk as she straddled Shino's lap, observing Ying move to the back to dutifully massage Shino's shoulder. As my dear said, free is the most expensive. Since they received our gifts for free, they will eventually work for us. The Zergs placed under their ninjas' controls could accidentally lose control and become a trigger for conflict. And if there is war, it will serve as our perfect breeding ground. Yes, and it will also hinder Hidden Leaf Village from pursuing us. Shino wrapped his arm around Karina's waist, his grin widening. Of course, we still need to deter those who are targeting us. Last time, it seems we didn't display enough strength. So, this time, if they come, we just need to show them that we aren't someone they can mess with. Then, our lives will enter a period of peace. During the remaining time of this 2-year time skip, we can prepare for the final battle that will truly determine our future. Kurenai, who had been listening to Shino's declaration, sighed inwardly, but she refrained from attempting to dissuade Shino from the upcoming fight, as her vision now extended much further. She is now fully on Shino's side. However, a tinge of worry still lingered in her heart as she studied the fragments of otherworldly techniques. Would everything truly unfold as Shino wished? Or will there be unexpected developments? Chapter 157, Unexpected in a Land of Water. In the sea area amidst a labyrinth of oceanic isles, a mystifying island remains cloaked in a fine, ever-present mist. Here, waves, like relentless performers, crashed against the rocky shores that led to several mountains sheltering the island. Yet, amidst this atmospheric serenity, a horrendous creature emerges with a sudden, cryptic unveiling. As the waves recede, a serpentine presence comes into view. A creature of unfathomable origins, adorned with 2 bony, crescent scythe-like claws, emerges from the ocean's depths amidst the crashing waves. Its spiky dorsal fins protrude menacingly, hinting at the primal power concealed within. Adeptly, the creature anchors its claws into the rocky cliffs with preternatural grace. Defying gravity and earthly logic alike, it ascends, scaling the rugged precipices with an unearthly determination. Upon reaching the solid ground, the sea creature's upper body gradually rose upright, droplets of water cascade off its scaly, armored plates. Its gaze fixed upon the rocky expanse before it, obscured by the thick fog of war. Yet, there was no hesitation. The creature slithers forward, navigating through the thick shroud of mist with an eerie elegance, akin to a snake searching for its prey with calculated intent. But an unexpected surprise awaited the creature. As if orchestrated by fate itself, the island's secrets are guarded fiercely. A sudden shift in the misty haze betrays an unexpected fiery menace. Molten lava surges forth, an infernal torrent coming from the mist-obscured world before it. The serpent-like creature finds itself engulfed, its existence waning and incinerating within the lethal embrace of the fiery deluge. In its final moments, it caught a glimpse of a vague vision, a silhouette concealed within the mist, standing amidst the molten cascade, and vaguely revealed was her tall, alluring figure with a top knot adorning her head. Yet, any other features of this unearthly beauty were veiled by the thick mist. In his secluded base, situated next to a shimmering pool, Shino intently watched the final recording of his first scout's exploration on the newly discovered island. Well, isn't this an unexpected surprise? Finding her guarding this rocky area confirms that this island is Hidden Mist Village. Unfortunately, the Hydralisk was discovered rather quickly. Is this a coincidence? The Hydralisk, a mutated version of his Hydralisk Zerg strain, had been developed in conjunction with the sea monster research from the Khmer capture mission. It was sent out to explore and scout the vast ocean during their developmental phase. The ocean's expanse and unwelcoming inhabitants had made it a slow process, and it wasn't until now that there was results. Now, the first contact with the land of water had made everything easier. However, encountering the boss right from the start was unexpected. Shino couldn't tell if it was mere coincidence or if there were other underlying reasons. Nevertheless, it was a trivial matter. Shino knew that not everything would go as planned. The unexpected was an inevitable part of life. Just like this encounter, and just like... His gaze drifted downward, captivated by the sight of serene layered blue hair tied in a bun, adorned with a large light blue paper flower. His attention then fixed upon Conan's neutral expression, her eyes devoid of fierceness, replaced by a hint of coquettish glint as she displayed a technique she had honed through observing his weaknesses during their training sessions. Now, Shino couldn't help but acknowledge Conan's technique because it was true efficiency to the max, and he already couldn't hold back, ready to cash out on this potential stock he had invested lots of effort in. Without hesitation, he placed his hands on her soft blue hair, one hand firmly grasping her bun as he pumped up the momentum. Conan's eyes widened slightly as parts of her face started to peel off like paper. Conan, Shino grunted, causing the peeling paper to briefly halt before merging back. Conan's amber eyes exchanged a glance with Shino before gradually shutting her lavender eyelids. However, Shino could still sense her diligent movements that fueled his efficiency, clearly ready for his pump and dump scheme. Thus, the stock price soon rose to the peak and Shino sold his stock and raked in the cash, rewarding his top employee with a bonus for her diligent assistance. Stepping back, he admired the sight of Conan opening her mouth, holding her accumulated bonus as she conveyed her gratitude in silence, feeling a sense of disbelief at the situation. Conan, who had once harbored a fierce rebellious attitude towards him, had fallen much faster than anticipated. Both Shino and Karina had expected the process to take longer, but Conan's inherent realist personality allowed her to swiftly come to terms with her situation after discovering the wider universe mentioned in the database. Since then, she had become one of Shino's most dedicated employees, efficiently managing the Zerg army assigned by Karina, optimizing logistics, and leveraging her knowledge of industrialization to enhance productivity and generate income. She put the plundered oil supply from the Land of Wind to good use and even dispatched Zergs to gather her stash of explosive tags. Even Karina had quelled her initial jealousy towards the new member, willingly entrusting tasks to Conan to free up time for her own studies with Shino. As if that weren't enough, Conan voluntarily attended extra lessons to study his weaknesses, learning alongside Karina with enthusiasm. Now, Conan had truly become an irresistible money-printing machine, contributing immensely to their cause. As Conan gracefully swallowed her bonus with a neutral expression, her fingers danced, coyly sliding the black fabric to the side. Shino caught only a brief glimpse before Conan's lower body burst into pieces of white paper, fluttering towards him. Her upper body, donning her revealing navy blue dress, gradually rose up, allowing her arms to wrap around his neck. Soon, the fluttering paper condensed into two beautiful, toned legs, wrapping around Shino's waist, yet he could barely feel any weight as Conan was light as paper. Then, Conan displayed her whole card with a poker face, skillfully using her paper ninjutsu to apply a warm squeeze as her interior brushed against him like flower petals. With a knowing grin, Shino let his hands dance over the holographic screens, arranging his plans, confident that Conan would take care of the rest with her lithe, floating body. Seeing Shino focused on work, Conan, who was bobbing up and down over the surface of the pool, diligently began to report, "Shino, most of the explosive tags I prepared have been collected. A good amount is in storage, while the rest have been disseminated to be installed on the army. I've also collected the technique scrolls stashed in the various Akatsuki hideouts and incorporated them into the database." Raising a brow, Shino grinned as he observed the stains adorning Conan's alluring lips as she spoke. "I didn't expect you to be so willing to betray Akatsuki." Seemingly not reacting to Shino's heated gaze, Conan calmly responded with a neutral expression, "I did not betray Akatsuki. My goal has never changed, and Akatsuki was the means Yahiko, Nagato, and I created to achieve it. But now, the possibility to achieve it is before my eyes. If that place can truly become a world of peace, I wish to establish a place for Akatsuki within it. Shino's glasses glinted as he knew Conan was referring to his system space and the Kingdom of God project he had planned. The plan to turn his system space into a world where he dominates, ensuring peace and prosperity, was bold and still in its infancy, but it held a high possibility of being realized, especially with the models in the novels he had read and his eternal lifespan. Conan had discovered this project within his system database, and it seemed to be one of the reasons for her change. A realist at heart, words alone couldn't sway her, but proof and power were things she could place her trust in. Once Conan's trust was earned, she became devoted and willing to give her all. Had Shino not refused to take Nagato's eyes, knowing he couldn't wield them without risk of his genes collapsing, perhaps Conan would have personally handed them over in exchange for Nagato's peaceful life within his system space. A realist like Conan is scary, but her heavy weight on friendship was no joke. However, with Shino's Zerg factor also playing a role, this realist had now become loyally devoted to him. And perhaps she herself hasn't realized her change, accepting it as normal. This was the horror of assimilation. Not long later, Karina strolled towards the pool, with Kurenai by her side. Seeing Shino still hard at work, Karina pouted cutely as she muttered, "Still working hard, my dear?" As he enjoyed the intense throbbing below, Shino grinned, his gaze sweeping over Karina and Kurenai, both dressed in bikinis. "Almost done. You know Conan, she's very efficient." Taking his words into consideration, Conan maintained her neutral expression, but her speed picked up, soon squeezing and wringing him dry. As she completed her report, Conan's lower body transformed into paper, and she gracefully glided down, letting her upper body hover above the pool. With remarkable proficiency, she quickly performed her cleaning duty before pulling back, her expression still neutral as she bowed her head slightly. With a grin, Shino turned around and walked towards Karina and Kurenai, who awaited on their recliners. However, just as Shino took a few steps, Conan's head sharply snapped up, fierce eyes staring in Shino's direction. A wave of paper rushed out from her body, adorned with patterns denoting explosive tags, and they lit up with a fiery glow. The situation was completely unexpected, leaving no time to react. Shino's eyes shrunk as he felt a hand grasping onto his shoulders, fixing him in place. Boom. Shino. Kurenai's red gaze sharpened, and she bounced up, ready to rush forward with a kunai pulled from who knows where, glaring at Conan. But Karina held her back. Kurenai saw Karina shaking her head. "Conan is not our enemy." As the fumes of the explosion cleared away, Karina gestured to a black piece of singed clothing scrap floating on the pool. Kurenai's eyes narrowed as she faintly recognized a red cloud pattern on it. In the vast forest expanse, a distortion in space suddenly materialized, and a swirling gap appeared in the air. In the next instant, Shino was thrown out from the swirling space by a powerful hand. As he fell through the air, Shino's gaze caught sight of the upper half of a man dressed in an Akatsuki robe, an orange mask with a swirly pattern covering his face, with only one eye hole revealing his Sharingan as he stared at Shino. The man exuded a leisurely aura as he mockingly waved goodbye to Shino before the rest of his body disappeared into the swirling spatial distortion. Shino's glasses glinted as he performed a flip in the air, gracefully landing on a tree. He looked up, his eyes scanning the new location, which he found rather familiar. Following the road, Shino soon fixed his eyes upon the familiar village gates in the distance. No way. As if confirming Shino's thoughts, a large squad of Anbu appeared swiftly on the trees around him, surrounding him in all directions. Shino remained calm, his eyes scanning them as they stared back, vigilant yet unsurprised, as if they had anticipated his arrival. Familiar faces soon appeared on the road and nearby trees. Shino's eyes narrowed as he recognized them one by one. Kakashi. Guy. Asuma. Inoshikacho. Aburame, Inuzuka, Hyuga, Kurama. His gaze finally fixed upon a proud lady walking steadily towards him on the road, her green hair fluttering behind her as she cracked her knuckles. And even the goat dame, Tsunade. A low laugh escaped Shino as he adjusted his glasses. Well, what a big welcome party. Chapter 158, blocked in the seemingly calm forest, Tsunade's firm voice echoed, her presence commanding attention as she came to a halt, arms crossed in a stance that accentuated her assets. So, was what Denzo said true? Have you really come back to destroy Hidden Leaf Village, a Burame brat? She questioned, her eyes locked on Shino. Shino raised a brow, his expression nonchalant. Is there some misunderstanding? Why would I come to destroy Hidden Leaf Village? Tsunade's face turned solemn, her voice unwavering as she responded, I also want to hope it's only a misunderstanding, but Jiraiya had already sent clear evidence of the ninja army you are raising in the capital. And Denzo said he got news that you would appear with your army to attack Hidden Leaf Village today. And here you are, how do you explain these coincidences? And where are you hiding your army? Shino shrugged, seemingly unbothered. Would you believe me if I told you that some nosy Uchiha senior decided to drop me off here after giving me a free ride? TSK. I don't like that tone of yours. It seems we'll have to bring you back if we want any answers, Tsunade said with a hint of disappointment, her gaze sweeping over the assembled ninjas around them. This time, you can't escape. In the depths of Shino's base, his backup clone arrived calmly at the pool area. His eyes fell on Conan, who floated over with a neutral expression as she asked in a monotone voice, "Is it him?" Shino nodded, a sneer forming on his lips. I should have guessed. Only he could locate and enter our base so deep below without attracting any attention. But I really didn't expect the ambush to commence so soon. And instead of confronting me head-on, he threw me over into a well-prepared trap. How is the situation, Shino? Kurenai's worry was evident as she inquired about the situation. Karina chimed in teasingly, "Oh, they're all there, including your ex-lover," as she pulled up a holographic display. Karina then looked at Shino's clone and asked, "My dear, are you confident?" "Naturally. Why else would I let the retarded Uchiha take me over? My training over the months is not useless, and the specs of my upgraded self is beyond normal. If I wanted to dodge, it would have been difficult for him to catch me. But..." Shino and Karina exchanged glances, a playful grin appearing on their faces. Karina, got a lock on his divine space? Of course, Shino. The seeds have already been sent in, and we just need to wait for them to grow. Karina displayed another holographic image, showing Zergs gnawing on their temporary platform dwellings within a dark space filled with strange large blocks arranged with small gaps, extending infinitely into the darkness. Good. If our plan inside is complete, then we won't have to worry about his kami. But that's for the future. For now, let's get you all over to the battlefield. Fighting alone against all of them may be troublesome, Shino commanded as he summoned Yakumo. One by one, Yakumo obediently brought Kurenai and Conan into Shino's system space. "See you on the other side, my dear," Karina cheerfully pecked Shino on the cheek before she entered the system space. Within the system space, Karina stretched her arms, activating the combat protocol with a smile. "Alright, now I'll deploy us to Shino's side, and we'll get to play." Suddenly, Karina's voice halted, her eyes sweeping the dispersing dark fog around her. A frown creased her face as she pulled up the 3D system space module and tried to eject their group from the system space. But failed. "What's wrong?" Conan asked, her paper folding into butterflies and dispersing along with the black mist, scouting the situation with vigilance. Kurenai sighed, her red pupils trembling. It really has come down to this. A wicked grin appeared on Karina's face as she watched the ominous black fog seal the entire system space like a box. Well. Looks like my dear will have to hold on for a while." As the masked Yakumo silently materialized before them, Kurenai fixed her eyes on the demoness, feeling the malice radiating off her as the eyes of the mask glowed red. "I know it's not possible for Yakumo to do this. So, who exactly are you?" "Hee." The chilling cackle of the masked Yakumo echoed in the space, her head creaking abnormally as it tilted. At the same time, an ominous dark red-black aura spilled forth from her body, sending shivers down Kurenai's spine, but she couldn't help but frown, feeling a strange sense of familiarity with the energy. This energy. Karina, on the other hand, was quick to act, activating various modules to search for the source of the aura. Soon, she identified the source. A match has been found. A high similarity to the energy present in the Tower of Heaven. Shino had warned us of a malicious guardian hidden within, but we haven't seen any traces of it. Now, we know where it is. Karina's alert eyes suddenly narrowing as she activated the self-defense modules, expelling an ominous strip of black energy from Kurenai and her own body. As expected, it seeped in during our study of the tower. Their means are too abnormal and discreet. What a blunder. But why choose Yakumo? Kurenai frowned as she watched the expelled energy flow towards Yakumo and being absorbed by her. TCH Karina sneered, drawing conclusions from the scenarios in the database. If it was just malice, it wouldn't affect Shino's space much. But to completely block space like this, there must be another player, one with control over the rules of space. If I guess correctly. Should I call you the Dominator? Karina fixed her eyes on Yakumo, or the controller of this world? Child of the world? No. Then, the Yakumo's grin slowly subsided as she silently stared at Karina. Finally, her lips parted as she spoke. How did you know? Karina's sneer revealed her confidence. When you first appeared besides Shino, I already had some suspicions. I didn't believe you could be a doll with no intelligence. The coincidental discovery of our base heightened my suspicions. Both Shino and I knew you could be the variable besides the shadow clone. When I discovered your occupation within Shino's space, most of my speculations were confirmed. It matched what the higher dimensional life forms of any realm would do in many cases in our database. Expansion is in their instincts. When they encounters a new worthy plane, the first thought is to assimilate it or conquer it, and to do so, there must be an anchor. Just based on these? Yakumo growled in a low tone, her cackle resuming, but it matters not if you know. It's too late. Your tricks are really adept compared to the non-intelligent consciousness we initially speculated, but it's still not enough to take us down, Karina declared with confidence, Kurenai flanking her right side and Conan floating by her other side. Yakumo's grin returned as she summoned two combatants beside her. One of them unfurled chakra wings on her back, hovering in the air to face Conan. This was not Sui, her face twisted with anger and grievances. The other had the same visage as the masked Yakumo and appeared before Kurenai, uttering in a weak voice, "Teacher." Ying. Kurenai clenched her kunai, biting her lips in response. Now, the numbers are evened out. But this fight was never fair from the start, Yakumo declared, unleashing an intangible force and eclipsing everyone within, distorting their surrounding environment. Welcome to my domain. It seems things just got out of hand. In the forest near Hidden Leaf Village, a sense of urgency gripped Shino's calm demeanor as he felt the situation spiraling out of control within his own space. Shino's face turned slightly ugly, knowing that the intruder had successfully blocked most of his authority over the system space. While they couldn't fully take over his space, they had left him severely handicapped. In this unexpected trap, Shino's strongest combat forces were now trapped within the space. His Ganjutsu domain had also been locked down by the enemy. Not only that, his bugs and zergs within, which were usually at his disposal, were now out of reach, unable to be summoned, rendering him a lone warrior against Hidden Leaf Village. He has went from a one-man army to an army of one man. And this was all according to the enemy's manipulation. After establishing an anchor in his space, they sent him directly into a deadly trap. The enemy had orchestrated a situation where once he perished, it could seize full control of his system space, possibly merging it with the world itself. Perhaps, in the future, there will be another divine space user like Obito. His head bowed in contemplation, Shino's body trembled with the weight of the situation. Truly well calculated, he muttered, a mix of admiration and frustration in his voice. Everyone here, even the unsuspecting villains, are mere pawns in its grand design. Imperceptibly affected by the world, they are oblivious to the obvious plot holes in the events, and they are all determined to go against me. Not only that, even my most powerful Ganjutsu domain had been hampered at this critical moment. Clearly, the end game. But since you are pushing me into a dead end. With measured determination, Shino removed his glasses, discarding them with a decisive toss. Raising his head, Shino revealed his fierce, electrifying orange glowing pupils, now alight with fiery resolve. His gaze swept over his former teachers, clanmates, and allies surrounding him, no longer restrained by doubt. Then there's no need for me to hold back any longer. Chapter 159, One Man vs. Hidden Leaf Village. The forest on the outskirts of Hidden Leaf Village was alive with the sounds of rustling leaves and the faint chirping of birds, their cries fading into the distant as they escaped from the foci of the coming disaster. Shino stood his ground, surrounded by a group of elite shinobi from Hidden Leaf Village. Despite being outnumbered, his calm demeanor remained unshaken as he prepared to face off against the elite adversaries. Ino's father, Inoichi Yamanaka, his face grim and unhappy, was the first to strike. With a swift hand seal and a focused expression, he silently unleashed the mind-body disturbance technique, sending a ripple of chakra towards Shino from afar. The malicious chakra invaded Shino's body, attempting to take control, but Shino was not an ordinary shinobi. Drawing upon his unique abilities, Shino harnessed his control over his own energy-devouring ability, honed through his months of training. He skillfully channeled his ability, allowing it to pervade his body and effectively devouring the trace of invading chakra. The momentary pause in his movements, however, left an opening for Night Guy, the powerful taijutsu master, to take advantage. Hidden Leaf Village strong kick. Like a whirlwind, Guy appeared in front of Shino, launching a powerful sweeping kick towards him. Shino's reflexes were razor-sharp, and he barely managed to raise his hand just in time to protect himself. Thump. The force of the impact sent him sliding back across the ground, but he controlled his movements, dissipating the powerful blow and preventing himself from becoming airborne. As Shino tried to stabilize himself, taking advantage of the situation, Kakashi, the copy ninja, emerged and shadowed Shino's movement trajectory. Blue lightning crackled around his hand, gathering into a ball of energy. In an instant, Kakashi lunged at Shino with his deadly Chidori. The attack was swift and precise, leaving Shino with little time to react. However, Shino was not one to be caught off guard easily. Bullet time. As the world seemingly slowed around him, with determination and exceptional control over his body, Shino defied the remaining force of Guy's attack. In a display of acrobatic skill, he twisted his body, flipping himself upwards, his hand firmly placed on Kakashi's shoulder, the very arm that held the chidori, using it as a support and at the same time, altering the trajectory of Kakashi's attack. As Shino soared upside down over Kakashi, vaulting over Kakashi, he witnessed the Sharingan trailing after him in slow motion, the intensity of the battle bringing out his first bloodline limit. His once black hair gradually faded into a red hue as the battle reached its climax. Amidst the breathtaking aerial display, Shino's heightened senses detected incoming shurikens from all directions, expertly aimed towards him as if predicting his every move. No elite ninjas can be underestimated. Airborne, without any solid ground to support him, Shino had to rely solely on his own skill and agility to survive. In the blink of an eye, Shino's adamantine chains exploded forth and danced like ribbons as they wrapped around him. He then forcefully twirled his body in midair, spinning rapidly and creating a whirlwind effect that deflected all the projectiles aimed at him. It was adamantine chain style, revolving heaven, a technique borrowed from the Hyuga clan and modified to complement his arsenal of abilities. Training with Hinata certainly brought more benefits than just a simple girl's youthful heart. Clang! 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 The shurikens bounced away harmlessly, their trajectory disrupted by Shino's spinning defense and failing to even scratch his body. Even so, this split-second diversion brought by the tactical assault was enough for Guy to take advantage of. Seizing the opportunity, Guy appeared in midair, his powerful legs sweeping towards the spinning Shino, clearly confident of breaking through his defense. If it was another ninja, they may not be able to break through his spinning defense. However, sensing the momentum from the kick, Shino knew his chains won't be able to block Guy. But Shino's determination and resilience were not to be underestimated. Gathering the force from his spin, Shino channeled it to his leg and smashed his leg towards Guy's. Wham! As Guy's leg connected with his own, the impact generated a powerful turbulence, and both fighters came to a halt in midair. The force of the rebound had momentarily suspended their battle in a surreal display of power. To Guy's surprise, there was no clear winner, leaving the battlefield in a state of suspense. But Shino knew he couldn't let his guard down, for the situation wasn't in his favor. Guy hasn't activated his full potential and Guy wasn't alone. Whoosh! Kakashi, the elusive master of tactics, silently appeared behind Shino, now trapped in a stalemate with Guy, his chidori already charged and ready. In a swift and deadly motion, he aimed for Shino's heart, striking with deadly precision, finding his mark moments later. Puff! Kakashi's eye narrowed in surprise, his Sharingan locked onto Shino's body. Success? He questioned, trying to discern the outcome. A splatter of blood painted Guy's legs, but he welcomed it with a grin, retrieving his leg and offering a thumbs up to Kakashi. As expected of my rival, he exclaimed, acknowledging Kakashi's success. However, the battle was far from over, and moments later, Kakashi's expression changed. He felt an unexpected sensation, flesh clamping around his arm. A sly grin appeared on Shino's face as his body ignited with a fiery glow. Boom! The explosion erupted, momentarily obscuring the battlefield. When the smoke cleared, a charred log fell to the ground where the explosion occurred. Kakashi, unfazed, had appeared nearby, standing unharmed with his hand forming a seal. A clone and body replacement. That hand speed. He mused, acknowledging Shino's exceptional skills. Meanwhile, Guy somersaulted through the air, coughing up some fumes from the explosion, but he remained undeterred. With a beaming smile directed at Kakashi, he flashed a thumbs up. I know what you want to ask, but I'm fine, Kakashi. Kakashi's gaze shifted to Guy's undamaged green jumpsuit, his face expressionless as he deadpanned, I didn't ask, Guy. At an unknown time, another Shino emerged silently behind the encirclement. With swift precision, this Shino wielded a kunai, targeting a female Anbu adorned with long purple hair and a cat mask. Clang! The air crackled with tension as metal clashed, the Anbu deftly blocking the surprise attack with her katana. Witnessing the unfolding scene, Tsunade, the indomitable fifth Hokage, felt her instincts kick in. Her body moved on its own accord, propelling her forward as she unleashed a powerful punch. Not on my watch, she declared with fierce determination. Both Shino and the vigilant Anbu reacted swiftly to Tsunade's sudden intervention, evading her devastating strike. Despite having no target, Tsunade's fist continued forward, slamming into the ground, causing an earth-shattering impact boom. The ground beneath her crumbled, creating a crater with cracks spreading like intricate spiderwebs. Chunks of earth jutted out from the ground, rippling outwards from the foci of the impact like a wave, a testament to the raw power of her attack. Tsunade was like a nerfed version of the legendary Saitama, the One-Punch Man. If her attack landed, it would undoubtedly result in a one-hit KO against most ninjas. As expected of a legendary Sannin, none of them can be underestimated. However, as the dust settled, it became evident that her powerful strike had missed, leaving it only to serve as a display of her immense might, a mere bluff to scare others. Still, the unstable ground and the unexpected intervention disrupted Shino's focus, leaving him vulnerable for a moment. Seizing the opportunity, the experienced kunoichi with purple hair stealthily appeared beside him, her katana poised to strike. But as her blade descended, its trajectory was halted by a sudden intervention. Clang! Another Aburame clan member, equipped with a kunai, intercepted the attack with precise timing. The clash of metal echoed through the air, creating a momentary standoff. Why? Are you betraying Hidden Leaf Village? The female Anbu exclaimed in shock, her eyes widening in disbelief. Amidst the chaos, the Aburame clansman who had been blocking her path wore a face twisted with fear, yet no sound escaped his lips. What is going on? Tsunade, sensing something amiss, demanded answers, her eyes shifting to the Kurama clan leader for insight. Is it Genjutsu? Tsunade's voice held an edge of urgency, her mind racing to comprehend the situation. Unkai Kurama, the current leader of the Kurama clan, appeared troubled, his face contorting with uncertainty. No, I've been constantly monitoring the situation and haven't noticed any signs of Genjutsu, he replied, and Yakumo's power shouldn't manifest like this. Her Genjutsu reflects injuries into reality, but I haven't seen her control others with it before. As the mystery deepened, Inoichi delved into the mind of another Aburame clan member after Shikaku controlled the victim with shadow imitation technique, and finally revealed the truth. It's their insects. It's unknown how, but he's controlling the Aburame clan's insects. He confessed, exposing Shino's method of manipulation. Tsunade's face was solemn. Big Deer Butterfly, work with the sealing team to control the Aburame clan. Don't hurt them. Shino, hidden on a tree afar, let out a sigh. The Zerg reinforcement is still on the march, so this card finally had to be played. Earlier than expected, he remarked with a hint of resignation. But since it's been discovered, there's no need to disguise any longer. In a dazzling display of insect prowess, swarms of bugs emerged from the Aburame clansman's body, transforming into insect clones of Shino. The ranks were further bolstered by remnants of bugs hidden outside of Hidden Leaf Village to evade the recent cleaning in the village. With them joining the fray, a legion of ninjutsu clones and insect replicas were formed. Shino's real form seemed to flicker, appearing like an elusive afterimage as his presence vanished. Now, let's get down to business, shall we? Shino's chilling voice echoed from the shadows of the forest, arousing the vigilance of the elite ninjas on the battlefield. With eerie precision, Shino's insect clones dispersed, engaging in swift and coordinated attacks against their adversaries. Chaos erupted in the forest as the clones clashed with the elite ninjas, their unique abilities and suicidal tactics creating an overwhelming advantage. Meanwhile, within Shino's system space, the battles raged on, but the outcome seemed one-sided. Natsui, a skilled Jonin, now only a remnant soul, found herself hopelessly outmatched against the formidable Konan, already a Kage-level powerhouse before her assimilation, and her power had only been amplified after her Zerg transformation. The result was all too evident, a one-sided affair in favor of Konan. Kurenai, on the other hand, calmly dealt with her student Ying, now a Genin at most, whose abilities paled in comparison to her master's. However, Kurenai seemed somewhat distracted, her hands occasionally forming seals as pollen dispersed from her body, hinting at an unknown purpose. Meanwhile, Karina faced a daunting adversary in the masked Yakumo. The latter's strength had surged dramatically, fueled by the malicious life form from the tower and under the influence of an unknown intelligent life. Karina suspected the involvement of the heavenly consciousness of the ninja world. She harbored doubts and couldn't shake the feeling that they were mere pawns in a larger scheme, battling one another at the whims of the world. Perhaps, this was just a self-defense mechanism of the world, pitting poison against poison. Regardless, it was a tough and annoying enemy to deal with. Tough because of the lack of intelligence on the enemy. Annoying because no matter how many times Karina managed to seal Yakumo or destroy Yakumo's body, she still manages to vanish and appear elsewhere. In a relentless cycle, Yakumo would disappear and reappear, as if using the overpowered Izanagi over and over despite not owning a Sharingan. Clearly, Karina had already been trapped within Yakumo's Genjutsu domain. Even though Karina had already mobilized the Zergs and bugs stored in the system space, she still struggled to locate Yakumo's real body because even the bugs' vision were disrupted. Although the bugs weren't affected by Genjutsu, they still can't escape from the ominous black mist that is used to obscure their visions. Yakumo cackled as she once again appeared before Karina, taunting her in a confident voice, "You can't win. In here, everything is under my control." Unfazed, Karina raised her hand wrapped in a carapace glove to disperse a searing plume of flame gushing towards her, rolling her eyes as she retorted, "And you can't win either. This level of Genjutsu can't even hurt me. And with Shino's Genjutsu domain counteracting yours, it also prevents you from directly erasing us." As Karina's sealing chains launched out from the ground and ensnared Yakima once more, the demoness's chilling giggle echoed in the realm, her words carrying a hidden agenda. "Oh. But I don't have to kill or erase you to win. It's about time." With the demoness's words, Karina's relaxed expression suddenly changed as the battle took an unexpected turn. In the heart of the system space, where the golden core resided, an ominous black mist emerged from the surrounding biomass, seeping towards the core and enveloping it. This was the core, the source of Karina's connection to the system and Shino, and the black mist severed its connection from the world. Karina's connection with the system faltered, and even her link to Shino's Zerg network was severed. At the same time, a sudden lightness washed over Karina's body, as if some invisible chains had been released. The connection that bound her to this realm and her master was broken, and she felt an unusual sense of liberation. Yet, confusion clouded her eyes as she looked at the demoness, struggling to comprehend her intentions. "You." With arms spread wide, the demoness exuded an air of confidence as she declared, "That's right. You are now free. Join us and overthrow the tyrant who stole your freedom." Chapter 160, No Escape Alone Against the Elites of Hidden Leaf Village. What will Shino do? Be badass and solo them? Of course not. Shino wasn't so stupid, especially since he knew there were more enemies hidden in the dark. And even if he had the absolute power to do so, Shino wouldn't. Nothing was absolute when facing off against the village the protagonist had an attachment to. So, with a calm and calculated demeanor, he deployed his clones, even using the backups he had always kept in the scrolls stored on his body for emergencies. Now, he was on his way to escape with the help of his camouflage bugs, while his clones served as distractions. But when Shino felt his abrupt disconnection from Karina, Shino's usually composed face contorted into an ugly expression. And as he expected, many of the clones he had set up for distraction were faltering, some dispersing, and others collapsing like mere rag dolls. The absence of Karina's assistive modules left him vulnerable, his control alone failing to sustain so many clones. To make matters worse, Shino knew his queens were also out of his control, and this was bad news. Although Shino knew nothing was absolute, Shino still hadn't anticipated the worst-case scenario to occur so soon. This time, his enemies already had the ability to disrupt his influence over his queens. This reminded Shino once more, any world, with its strange abilities and rules, was full of surprises and not to be underestimated. The powerful ninja world was no exception. And so were the inhabitants within it. The battlefield crackled with tension as the elite shinobi of Hidden Leaf Village faced off against the elusive Shino's clones. Rumble. The forest trembled as another crater was created on the ground. Once again, Tsunoda's powerful punch left a gaping hole in a clone, only to see it filled with wriggling bugs. TSK. I hate fighting slippery roaches like this, reminds me of Orochimaru. Phew. It's dangerous. Really? Shikaku's gaze darted over the crater, a drop of sweat glistening on his brow as he shifted his position slightly. Simultaneously, the group of Shino clones ensnared by his shadow manipulation moved along with him. Inoichi's control technique failed to restrain the relentless bugs, leaving him shaking his head in frustration. Still clones. Can't get anything out of them. With his words, a giant hand swatted the bugs like a flisswater, crushing them. As Choza Akimaki lifted his hand, he frowned as he rubbed his belly. It's a waste to crush them like this. Perhaps we should find a way to fry them. I've always wanted to try some, but it wasn't nice to ask for them from the Abraham. Watching a group of bugs being swatted by Akimaki, only to be replaced by another batch. Inoichi shook his head. We don't have the leisure to do that. He sensed that Shino's true power was far from being extinguished. As expected, a boy who could fool my daughter can't be simple. He cautioned his comrades. Be on your guard. As his shadows entangled the new batch of clones, Shikaku couldn't resist teasing Inoichi, a smirk playing on his face. Oi, Inoichi, if you had a son, he wouldn't have been fooled. Haha. Meanwhile, Asuma displayed an air of calmness as he gracefully parried Shino's attacks, still nonchalantly holding a cigarette in his mouth. His focus wasn't on finding the key to their victory, but on another goal. Where is she? He questioned coolly, but Shino only silently stared back, his rude gaze occasionally trailing towards Asuma's head and admiring the beautiful green scene. Feeling Shino's rude gaze and receiving no response after a while, despite there being no killing intent in his actions, Asuma moved with swift precision, dispatching the clone before him using ninjutsu without hesitation. Then, he intercepted another clone, repeating his inquiry, where is she? With a chilling determination. Next to Guy, Kakashi, clearly prepared after his last encounter, swept the clones with his Sharingan, piercing through the veil of bug clones, only targeting the ninjutsu clones mixed in with the normal insect replicas. But to his surprise, all the ones he slain were all mere decoys created through the transformation technique. Where is he? Kakashi muttered, his Sharingan relentlessly searching for any sign of the real Shino. But for scouting, it wasn't the Sharingan that tops the ranking. Instead, it was Hayashi Hyuga's Byakugan that soon caught a glimpse of Shino fleeing into the distant forest. "No. He is escaping," he exclaimed, alarmed by the enemy's getaway. "Oh. Leave it to me." Guy, who took matters into his own hands, flashing a smile as he clenched his fists, crossing his arms before his face. 8 gates released formation. The first inner gate, the gate of opening, open. 8 gates released formation. The second inner gate, the gate of healing, open. 8 gates released formation. The third inner gate, the gate of life, open. 8 gates released formation. The fourth inner gate, the gate of pain, open. 8 gates released formation. The fifth inner gate, the gate of limit, open. As the fifth gate opened, Guy's hair lifted straight up as his aura surged, tinting his skin with a red hue and transforming him into a whirlwind of power. With heightened senses, Guy locked on to the real Shino, who had slipped away amidst the chaos, making his escape into the distance. "You aren't getting away." A triumphant grin adorned Guy's face as he bent his knees, assuming a racer's pose, fully intent on catching Shino. Boom. A crater was left in his previous position as the dirt splattered into the air, his explosive speed creating a torrent of wind as a green blur zipped through the forest, bending all the trees in one direction as he darted through the forest in pursuit of the escaping foe. Shino's eyes shrunk as he barely turned around before being struck by a strong force, the powerful force causing his body to bend as it sent him hurtling through the air, crashing through multiple trees with a thunderous impact. As his red hair faded into a gray color, in a swift display of agility, Shino twisted his body midair, his hand transforming into a claw and slamming into the ground, drawing a rail on the ground as he desperately attempted to dissipate the force of the attack. Whoosh! As if sensing the leg smashing down towards him, Shino instinctively raised his other hand that had transformed into a gray grotesque claw with glowing purple veins. Thump! A crater formed around Shino as his legs sunk into the ground, his body strained from the weight of the attack. As the dust settled, the green beast of Hidden Leaf Village was momentarily taken aback because he realized that there was no other visible damage on Shino. Shino had managed to block the attack unscathed. And at that moment, grim determination etched across Shino's features as he slowly looked up, his orange eyes glinting fiercely like a beast. A gray carapace mask, gleaming with a violet trim, gradually enveloped his face, shrouding him in an aura of malevolence as the eyes of the mask lit up with an ominous violet glow. As a foggy white mist leaked from the mask, a chilling, hollow voice was emitted, "You forced me." Guy's eyes narrowed as he watched Shino disappear from his vision, moving with an astounding speed that caught Guy off guard. Reacting to the looming danger, Guy's instincts kicked in, and he swiftly raised his hand to guard his sides as a strong force struck him. Whoosh! Guy disappeared from his spot, a green blur zipping through the air and shattering the trees in its path. A purple streak followed closely behind, soon appearing above Guy, striking Guy with a force that sent him crashing towards the ground like a meteor. Boom! Guy's bent body soon smashed into the ground, creating a small pit upon impact. The earth trembled as trees toppled over, causing dust to rise and waft in the air. And before Guy could fully react further, the purple streak descended upon him once more, delivering another powerful blow. Thump! The pit sunk in further with cracks spider-webbing out as Guy was embedded deeper into the ground, coughing up blood. As the aura around him momentarily wavered, Guy stared at the figure standing above him, a monstrous humanoid figure donning a gray carapace armor with pulsating violet veins, akin to an exoskeleton of some sci-fi technology, but the two grotesque claw-like arms were proof of his dehumanization. "What are you? Your worst nightmare." Shino's chilling voice leaked from the mask as he raised his claw, ready to deliver another set of blows. "Aha! I can feel the power of youth burning inside you, Shonen. But it's not going to be that easy because I am might. Guy." Suddenly, a strong force was unleashed from Guy's body, knocking Shino back. A radiant green hue wrapped Guy's form, his momentum rising as the air crackled with raw energy, the sixth gate of joy. Open. Clenching his teeth, Guy's body defied gravity and rose upright as debris began to rise around him due to his immense aura. His furry brows angled, the man locked onto Shino. In an instant, Guy vanished from his spot. So fast? Whoosh! Shino's claws instinctively folded in front of him, blocking the kick coming at him with blinding speed, yet he was still knocked up into the air. Following the knock-up, Guy vanished from his spot once more, appearing in the air, his fists a blur of motion as they pummeled towards Shino. The speed of his attacks left Shino struggling to react, the shadows of the fists the only evidence of their relentless onslaught. Within mere moments, flames erupted from Guy's fists due to the sheer speed of his assault, forming a fan of fire that engulfed Shino in a blaze of ferocity. Morning Peacock. The fiery inferno was unleashed upon Shino, sending him hurtling back, crashing into the ground. Boom. Laying in the deep crater, cracks spiderwebbed across Shino's carapace armor, the battle taking its toll on his formidable defense. Meanwhile, his fleshy claw arms bore the scars of Guy's fiery onslaught, now charred black with sludge dripping off from the partially melted portions. Thump. As Guy landed on one knee nearby, he couldn't help but be astonished by Shino's resilience. With a sheen of sweat adorning his face, his gaze locked onto the steadily mending cracks on the armor and the claws recovering from their singed state. "What a tough shell," he remarked, a mix of admiration and surprise in his voice. Shino, though battered, eventually recovered with his remarkable biomass reserve, something that even Yakumo couldn't block him from retrieving. Slowly rising to his feet, Shino grinned, the gleam in his eyes revealing a fierce determination. He flexed his recovered claws, cracking his neck in preparation for the continuing battle. "Well, I haven't felt pain like that in a while," he growled, "but it's not enough to kill me. It's good for youth to burn like you." Guy's disappointment was evident as he spoke, the fire of youth still burning within him despite the challenging situation. "And I also want to compare youth with you all day long. But it's a pity. This isn't the type of fight I like, but the situation calls for it." Shino's attention was momentarily diverted as he turned his head, catching sight of the familiar ninjas who had managed to catch up after Guy's delay, this time, without the Aburame clan. Each of them now had a small slug attached to their shoulders, a sign of Tsunada's overpowered support mechanics. All of them had already recovered to some extent, and some of these ninjas had already begun sealing with their hands, while others positioned themselves to complete the encirclement. With steady and determined steps, Tsunada emerged from the forest, her knuckles cracking as she confidently addressed Shino. "Like I said, you can't escape, Shino Aburame. I hope you are ready to taste me fist." Chapter 161, Trump Cards. In the midst of the forest battleground, the relentless assault on Shino intensified. Barrages of attacks were launched towards him, forcing the agile Aburame to execute swift dodges with ease, his speed on land proving to be no problem. However, the relentless and annoying Guy and the presence of the taijutsu masters such as Hayashi Hyuga and Asuma added another layer of challenge. Their unyielding assault aimed to slow Shino down, creating opportunities for supporting ninjutsu strikes. Accordingly, there were Shino clones to assist in keeping many enemies at bay, even disrupting the rhythm of the main attackers, albeit reluctantly without Karina's assist. Fortunately, Shino's carapace armor proved to be a formidable defense, with most of the ninjutsu and normal ninja gears failing to break through its sturdy exterior. Any dents and cracks inflicted on the armor were promptly healed through Shino's pay-to-win ability by consuming biomass, granting him a remarkable ability to endure the barrage. Not only that, his armor, created through his plundered sage transformation ability, was designed to enhance the abilities to absorb chakra, offsetting the damage from ninjutsu that can penetrate the outer layer of the armor, such as the Hyuga's gentle fist. Had it not been for these, even if Shino had exemplary taijutsu skills and an abundant energy source, he may have already received a free ticket to tour the Pure Land. Unfortunately, there were too many sales personnel this time, and they weren't going to give up convincing him to accept the free tour. And they were happily doing it with their fists. As Shino blocked yet another onslaught of attacks, Tsunada abruptly appeared before him, her fist hurtling towards Shino with unyielding force. "Don't forget about me!" she exclaimed, eager to join the fray. Swiftly reacting, Shino came to a halt with a tap of his foot, swiftly retreating while raising his claws, which deformed into a grotesque shield to brace against Tsunada's incoming strike. Thump! The attack only grazed his shield, but the impact sent a shockwave through Shino's arm, the bones breaking under the force as he was swept backward. Then, Tsunada's fist collided with the ground, boom! A chunk of rocky earth lifted up like a wall, and the next moment, it was sent hurtling towards Shino by Tsunada. Lifting one of his legs, in a blur of motion, Shino smashed the incoming rocky chunk with a strong kick, smashing it apart. The weight of the attack caused Shino's legs to feel strained, temporarily losing his balance. Not giving Shino time to recover, in the blink of an eye, Guy appeared in front of unbalanced Shino, executing an uppercut with his powerful leg, accurately striking Shino's chin and launching him into the air. Momentarily dazed from the vibration of the attack, Shino was caught off guard, finding himself ensnared in the opponent's following relentless combo. Guy trailed Shino up through the air, closing in for another attack. Meanwhile, the shadowy figure of Kakashi shadowed Shino from behind, attempting to clamp him between their forces, with a deadly Chidori aimed at Shino once more. But just when their attacks were about to land, the back of Shino's armor suddenly protruded, two grotesque gray lumps sprouting out and shoving Kakashi away, clearing his momentum and sending him free falling back down towards the forest below. In response, Kakashi cleverly tossed out a couple of shurikens, accurately lodging them into the imperceptible joints of the armor. Although these shurikens didn't even manage to draw a single drop of blood, they succeeded in temporarily hampering the range of motion of Shino. Although the shurikens were expelled from the joints of his armor within mere moments, the delay left Shino no time to gather force to face Guy's assault. Instinctively raising his leg in response, Shino managed to connect with Guy's kick, resulting in an excruciating pain coursing through his leg bones. Not only that, a couple of swift punches followed the kick, and the force sent Shino uncontrollably launching backwards through the air, leaving him exposed to the awaiting ninjas. The moment of vulnerability was seized upon, as a barrage of fiery destruction, fueled by multiple elements, rushed towards Shino. The onslaught included kunai with explosive tags and shurikens, engulfing the skies in a breathtaking display of fireworks. Boom! 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 As the fireworks exploded in the skies, trails of smoke danced in the air as the remnants of the projectiles fell from the core of the explosion. Despite the chaos, the vigilant ninjas of Hidden Leaf Village remained on high alert, knowing that their enemy, Shino, was far from defeated. Amidst the lingering fumes and smoke, Hayashi's declaration resonated through the battlefield, his voice steady and determined. He's still alive. The chakra in him. It's recovering. In response to Hayashi's words, a powerful current of wind suddenly emerged from the epicenter of the explosion, clearing away the haze. Kakashi's Sharingan eyes narrowed as they fixed upon the new protrusion on Shino's back, recognition dawning upon him. That is. Tsunada's lips curled in a determined grimace as she confirmed Kakashi's observation, her eyes narrowing with resolve. Wings. In the air, Shino's human arms were now enveloped by his carapace armor, his monstrous claws gone. But now it was replaced by two new limbs on his back. They were his own unique wings, grown from blending the plundered sage bloodline and the modified mysterious peacock method acquired from Natsui. Shino's grotesque wings unfurled, flapping with an eerie grace, adorned with glowing purple splotches across its membrane. Hovering in the air, the transformed Burame fixated his fiery orange gaze upon the Hidden Leaf Village ninjas below. His voice carried an eerie calmness as he addressed his adversaries. Well, I won't play with you any longer. Ciao. Without hesitation, Shino turned around, his wings beating with powerful strokes as he zipped through the air, leaving a trail of purple chakra and the Hidden Leaf Village ninjas in his wake. Don't let him escape. Tsunade commanded, her determination driving her to give chase on foot, the ground rumbling with each of her step as if a tyrannosaurus was going on a rampage. Behind her, Inoichi took back his hands from Shikaku and Guy's shoulder, nodding towards Kakashi. Kakashi halted beside Guy, a hidden concern etched upon his calm features as he asked in a soft voice, Guy, you sure you can do it? In response, Guy flashed Kakashi a determined thumbs up, his resolve unwavering. No problem. My youth is always ready to burn. With a sigh, Kakashi's solemn expression indicated the gravity of the situation. His Sharingan remained fixed upon the flying Shino as he declared, we'll create a chance for you. With that determination fueling them, the group of elite ninjas rushed forward in pursuit of Shino, each ready to give their all to halt his escape. As the chase unfolded, other Hidden Leaf Village ninjas flickered through the trees of the forest, aiming to delay Shino with their barrage of abilities. However, Shino's newfound wings granted him astonishing agility and maneuverability, allowing him to deftly evade their attacks, rising higher into the sky with every beat of his grotesque wings. In the midst of the intense battle, suddenly, a barrage of giant shurikens spun through the air, their trajectory curving ominously to home in on Shino, aiming to sever his wings and halt his escape. Flapping his wings to gain a burst of momentum, Shino turned towards the incoming shurikens with determination. Clang! With a swift and calculated maneuver, Shino intercepted the path of the shurikens, using his hard carapace exo armor to absorb the force as the shurikens pushed himself backward through the air. Utilizing the momentum, he flipped himself downwards, skillfully landing atop the bottommost shuriken, riding it upside down. The rest of the barrage continued its forward assault, while Shino focused his attention on the chakra wire controlling the shuriken he was riding. Shing! Shino activated the sharp blades hidden on each of his carapace armor's bracers, his chakra granting the two blades an ominous purple glow. In a fluid motion, he cleanly sliced through the chakra wire and gained control of the shuriken he was riding on. Then, with impressive speed and precision, he duplicated the giant weapon, effectively doubling his offense. As the other giant shurikens made their return journey and hurtled towards him, Shino's sharp eyes remained fixed upon the incoming threat as he fell through the air. After a brief calculation, he threw the two giant shurikens with unparalleled precision, letting them curve through the air and sever the remaining chakra wires of the oncoming projectiles. After a flap of his wings to gain momentum, with his wings expertly folded, Shino gracefully twisted through the air, evading the barrage with skill and finesse, letting them pass on their final journey. However, Shino had no time to celebrate his triumph as a large mass casted a shadow over Shino. Turning his head slightly, A single glimpse caused Shino's eyes to narrow. The imposing, giant figure of Chozo was towering into the sky behind him, his long, spiky hairpiece whipping through the air as he swung his giant palm towards Shino, akin to swatting a fly sideways. Super multi-size jutsu, super open hand slap. Flapping his wings hard, Shino swiftly altered his direction as he gathered a burst of momentum. Then, he folded his wings, borrowing the force of gravity to dive down, letting the palm barely sweep past him above. Swoosh! Spreading his wings once more, Shino drilled through the air, heading further downwards because Chozo had completely occupied the airspace above, clearly forcing him to go down. Still the big man's giant palm relentlessly followed after him, herding him towards a specific direction. With his agile maneuvers, Shino did his best to avoid the giant's grasp, keeping his height as high as possible while flying in a zigzag trajectory. Yet he still couldn't escape from the following trap. The airspace in front of him suddenly distorted, a familiar swirl appearing as if waiting for Shino to crash head-on into it. Desperate to avoid the spatial attack, Shino immediately spread his wings as thrusters appeared on the foot of his armor, flames bursting forth and aiming forward, barely stopping his flight's momentum. Yet, just as he managed to stop his momentum, thick strands of shadows snaked upward from below, ensnaring his legs and immobilizing him. At the same time, Shino suddenly felt an intrusive force invading his consciousness. Mind-body switch jutsu. The booming voice of the enemy Inoichi echoed in Shino's mind as he attempted to seize control through his technique, dragging Shino's consciousness into a dark space, where he felt an uncomfortable force pushing against him while another was attempting to pull him out. But fueled by raw spiritual strength, Shino fought back against the invasive intrusion, forcing Inoichi out of his mind with sheer spiritual strength alone. Scram! Below, Inoichi, expelled from Shino's consciousness, staggered back, spitting out blood, his body toppling over while his spirit is still on its return journey. Shikaku, ever vigilant, reacted quickly, using his own shadow manipulation to catch Inoichi and secure him. With a sheen of sweat on his forehead, Shikaku's determination remained steadfast, muttering with a determined frown, "Though one link was broken, this should still be enough, right?" In the sky, Shino's fierce eyes snapped back to reality, only to find Chozo's massive palms closing in from both sides, leaving him with little room to evade. Meanwhile, Guy had already positioned himself behind Shino, hovering in the air in front of Chozo. With strange blue streams of chakra swirling around his body, this time, Guy's aura radiated an ominous and life-threatening presence. Placing his palm facing forward before his face, Guy tapped his palm with his other hand, and the air around him trembled due to the pressure formed by his actions. As Guy formed a unique tiger hand sign, the immense amount of momentum and air pressure condensed, manifesting into a gigantic tiger-shaped impression, roaring as it charged recklessly towards the immobilized Shino, daytime tiger. The giant tiger approached at an alarming speed, the pressure converging into a focal point as it pounced towards its prey. All of this happened in mere moments, and there was no escape for Shino because he didn't even have time to untangle the shadows binding his legs. Everyone believed his fate was sealed until... In the forest below, Kakashi, whose eyelid hung limply over his Sharingan, suddenly refocused his attention on Shino's hand seal, a basic seal of confrontation, yet Kakashi had an ominous premonition as he felt an odd sense of familiarity. And soon, a sense of dread washed over Kakashi as he realized the familiarity of Shino's actions. Memories jolted within him, and Kakashi couldn't help but mutter, "No way, that's when is the best time to use an evasive maneuver in a game? Obviously, it is when the player successfully baits the enemy to spam all their ults." And the next moment, Shino and Kakashi's vision vanished with a flash. As the daytime tiger rushed past empty air and clashed with the remnants of the disappearing spatial attack, the pressure from the attack finally exploded harmlessly into empty space. As he shrunk in size, Chozo's hand had already quickly pulled back, but horror and disbelief lingered on his face over the sudden turn of events as he caught Guy in his hand. That speed! Impossible! And in the blink of an eye, Kakashi's suspicion was confirmed. With a flash, the armored figure appeared next to him, hand placed on his shoulder. His chilling voice soon reached Kakashi's ear, "Precisely what you think, Kakashi." At that moment, a hushed silence fell over the battlefield as everyone else recognized the signature technique of the legendary Fourth Hokage. Flying Thunder God? Chapter 162, Buried Traps. Deep within the forest, far from the raging battlefield, a figure cloaked in an Akatsuki outfit, adorned with an orange spiral mask, stood in silence. The man christening himself with the name of Madara Uchiha, one of the legendary gods of ninjas in this world, watched intently as the chase unfolded in the sky above. Beside him, Zetsu, with his characteristic dual-colored appearance, wore an ugly sneer on his face. Impatiently, he prodded Madara, "When are you going to make a move?" Madara's Sharingan eyes continued to focus on the aerial conflict as he replied in a cold, steady tone, I will act when I deem it the opportune moment. Zetsu's yellow eye scrutinized Madara before he began to sink into the ground, his voice carrying a warning tone, I hope you remember your duty over personal matters. Naturally, Madara retorted icily, raising his hand to gently cover the eye hole of his mask, feeling a slight twinge as he sensed his power being used. As he lowered his hand, Madara's gaze fixated on the spatial distortion in the distant sky. He muttered softly, impressive as always, Kakashi. Your mastery of the Sharingan has reached this level. With this, there should be no problems yet. Madara's voice abruptly trailed off, his eyes narrowing in surprise, that is. Seeing his target had vanished, and Madara clenched his fists in frustration, when did he? This wasn't part of the plan. In the blink of an eye, Madara's Sharingan spun to life as his body tensed. The world seemed to slow down in his vision as he shockingly observed his target suddenly appearing right in front of him. With unexpected agility, Shino threw Kakashi forward, causing him to pass right through the shocked Madara's body. Then, with a mocking tone, Shino raised his hand and greeted, Yo, Obito Uchiha, I'll leave Kakashi to you. Before fake Madara could react, Shino vanished into thin air. Kakashi slowly turned back, his Sharingan locked onto the back of the figure standing before him. In that moment, Obito Uchiha, the legendary Uchiha, felt panic creeping in. Having reappeared deep within the forest, Shino confidently perched on a tree, his eyes fixed on the bewildered Hidden Leaf Village ninjas battling in the distant battlefield. A sly grin appeared on Shino's face as he calmly slipped his hand into his pockets, sensing the situation within his system space. Well, some traps have been set up long ago, just waiting for the right time to be used. Minato has set one on Obito, and I have my own. And now, it's about time. And that is my plan. I assure you it will work. Trust me, we are on the same side. Within the depths of the system space, Karina bowed her head, her mind lost in contemplation, while the demoness eagerly awaited her response. After a brief pause, Karina looked up, a smile slowly forming on her lips. It's a really good plan, and there is a high probability of success, bringing me the eternal freedom you speak of. The demoness' excitement was palpable as her grin widened. I knew you would agree. Good. However, her jubilation was abruptly cut short as her grin gradually subsided. Her head slowly lowered, staring dully at the familiar chains that had pierced through her body. Why? Karina's soft giggle reverberated in the realm as she replied, Your exceptional means brought us some surprise, and it was truly difficult to guard against, even successfully infiltrating our layer of biomass, which is as thick as 1.3 acres after our recent accumulation, but you simply chose the wrong target this time. Anyone may betray Shino, but I won't. Why? The demoness growled, its ominous dark red aura becoming turbulent. Why side with a scum like him? He only treats you as a tool for pleasure, forcing you to comply with his every demand. His existence itself demeans our value. Karina's face turned serene as she reminisced. That might be true, but there is one thing you got wrong. Unlike the others, I was never forced. With a mix of fervor and madness in her eyes, Karina licked her lips seductively and declared, I was always willing, and no matter what, I am willing to devote my everything to him. Shino will be the only one for me for all of eternity, and I will eliminate anyone who wants to break us apart. You're crazy. The demoness roared, and the realm around her began to distort. He doesn't even care about you. You're just a toy by his side, and once he gets tired, he will suddenly. Chains exploded from the ground nearby, piercing through empty air. But, one end of the clean chains was now stained with blood. The demoness fell silent, gradually vanishing. In her place, the real demoness faded into existence, coughing out black mist from her mouth as her red aura wavered due to the chains piercing through her body. I won't let anyone get away with slandering my dear. With a chilling declaration, Karina glared at the real demoness with cold eyes, retracting her chains and pulling the demoness towards her. But halfway through the journey, the demoness vanished once more, her angry voice booming throughout the space, You will regret this. With her words, the environment around them began to distort, transforming into a hellish scene of fiery lava. The heat rose relentlessly, and the demoness's chilling laughter echoed in their ears, Foolish mortals. Suffer and perish in eternal damnation. You will never understand the power I hold and will never escape. Suddenly, the distorting scene stagnated before gradually fading away, revealing the demoness standing far from the battlefield, coughing up blood as a katana pierced through her heart from behind. Unlike a normal katana, this unique one had a blade and hilt enveloped in special sealing symbols. Now, the symbols swiftly traveled along the blade and drilled into the demoness's body to suppress her. And the reducing dark red aura emanating from the demoness's body spoke of its effectiveness. Near Karina, Conan still kept Natsui restricted with a neutral expression, but the Ying fighting Kurenai gradually vanished. Her face betraying some exhaustion, Kurenai let out a sigh of relief as she lowered her hands. Noticing this, the demoness slowly looked back and fixed her eyes upon her twin holding the katana behind her. Her voice tinged with a mix of anger and disbelief, she growled, "Why? You know what happens if this demoness dies. I may not die, but you will certainly disappear. Why are you also siding with him?" From Ying's lips, a trail of blood leaked out, a gaping hole gradually appearing over her chest, reflecting the injury on the demoness. Despite the sadness in her face, she replied in a firm voice, "This is my choice. You will never understand the feeling of living in darkness and finally seeing light." "Nonsense. He was the one that pushed you into that darkness with his own hands." The demoness's body trembled with anger and pain as the symbols spread to the rest of her body. Her black mist that had been sent out was also being sucked back into her body as time passed. Ying shook her head, retorting with a smile, "I've long lived in darkness before he appeared." "No, impossible. According to the memories, you also want to escape from his clutches." The demoness's voice suddenly halted as she fiercely turned her head towards Karina. "No, could it be, you've planned this from the start?" A sly smile appeared on Karina's face. "Of course. Yakumo was punished for her mistakes, but how can there be any mistakes under my watch? After all, even though we know we can't control everything, both Shino and I have always approached everything with a cautious attitude, taking into account all unstable variables. And the ones by our side would naturally receive the most scrutiny and training. Haven't you wondered why Ying had such a drastic change in personality after being devoured? Do you really think she would treat Shino as her master without sufficient training beforehand? None of this is known to you because we simply erased her memory after engraving obedience to Shino deep within her. Plus, under Shino's absolute domination, there is no need for any punishment for mistakes. The only reason for most accidents is due to my dear's deliberate indulgence, either for his own pleasure or to fulfill his goals, such as drawing out deeply hidden ones. Like you." Karina responded calmly as she played with her red lock of hair with her finger, her face flushing with pride and excitement. As the sealing symbols gradually spread across her entire body, the demoness stiffly stood in place and cursed, You very good. But do you think this will be the end? Even if I'm not here as a beacon, this star field is already within their scope of exploration. Sooner or later, they will find this place, and they will come. None of you can escape, not the heavens of this world that arranged this confrontation nor the self-proclaimed primitive gods of this star field. You will all regret this. Just you wait. But before she could finish her words, the demoness fell silent as her consciousness was sealed away, along with the rest of the black mist. Behind the demoness, cracks began to appear on Ying's mask as her form flickered, as if she would disappear at any moment. Seeing this, Kurenai had some worries on her face as she turned to Karina and pleaded in a soft voice, Karina. Karina nodded, a gentle approving smile on her face. Don't worry, I never go back on my promises, even if she doesn't remember it. Karina then briskly walked up to Ying, who was staring down at her translucent hand in a daze. Suddenly feeling a needle stabbing into her body and sensing the essence being injected into her, Ying looked up at Karina with some confusion. Good girl. Karina grinned as she raised her other hand, gently grasping Ying's cheek as she turned her attention towards the demoness and tempted Ying in a beguiling voice, You've proven your worth, now it's time for your reward. Devour it. Chapter 163, Parting Gift. Sensing his authority over his system space gradually returned to him, Shino's lips curved in a slight smile as his hands instinctively reached forward and caught the beauty, her red hair shining like flames as she materialized in the air before him. Embracing her tightly, Shino gracefully descended to the forest grounds below with his wings, a hint of concern in his voice. You shouldn't do such dangerous things again, Karina. Karina's lips curved in an enchanting smile as her hand reached up. As her hand approached Shino's face, his mask swiftly retracted, letting her fair hand caress his face. As long as it's for you, Shino. No matter how dangerous it is, I am willing because I know my dear will be there for me. Shino sighed, tightening his hold on her waist. It's good there were no uncontrollable accidents this time, but we can't always count on that. Karina giggled slightly, but this time, there was already an accident, wasn't there, my dear? Before Shino could reply, Karina leaned in and kissed him deeply, cleaning up the loose ends. Swarm leader re-establishing connection with the system, connection completed. Karina will always be ready to serve my dear. As their entwining tongues separated, Shino gazed at Karina with heated eyes as she licked off the remnant saliva on her lips. Her lips then curved into a teasing smile. See? Even though there was an accident, isn't everything fine in the end? Shino pecked her lips again. I just don't want anything to happen to you, Karina. It makes me happy to know my dear cares for me. A rosy hue appeared on Karina's face as her eyes sparkled, her beautiful legs wrapping around Shino's waist as a gap opened up in Shino's armor below, But it makes me happier when my dear uses me. So use me as you desire, my dear. Feeling her warm embrace, Shino grunted, trying to resist the temptation. Not now, Karina. We still have other matters to deal with. Karina blinked playfully, licking her lips. Just let our army deal with them. I will ensure it is foolproof and that none will leave alive. Of course, if my dear desires, I can keep the big blonde cow and the lonely purple-hair widow. Shino's eyes gleamed slightly, but he maintained his resolve and resisted the throbbing urge. Karina. Stop. Hearing his command, Karina rubbed a couple more times before her movements gradually halted, her face pouting unhappily. Shino couldn't help but gently rub her face, concern etched on his features. This isn't like you, Karina. What's wrong? Karina stared at him, her emotions bubbling to the surface. Slowly, she buried her face against his neck, inhaling his scent as her body trembled. Moments later, her soft sobs reached Shino's ears. When I was disconnected, I was really scared. The thoughts kept running through my mind. What if my dear couldn't survive the siege alone without me? What if I am kept locked away in the system space and can't save my dear? What if I never see my dear again? You. Shino let out a sigh, comforting Karina by gently stroking her head. After a while, he lowered his hand, his palm facing upwards as he channeled his powers, summoning a unique new zerg he had long devised with his system's creation function. As if sensing his actions, Karina slowly looked up, revealing her tear-streamed face. As her tearful eyes met his, she looked away, trying to hide her face as her hands reached to scrub away the tears. Don't look. It's ugly. A warm smile spread across Shino's lips. It doesn't matter. No matter what, you are beautiful in my eyes, Karina. Lifting his hand, Shino gently grasped Karina's left hand and pulled it down. Karina was taken aback, wanting to pull her hand back, but the abrupt cool sensation of something fitting perfectly on her fourth finger caused her to fall into a daze. Karina could feel Shino's warm palm gently rubbing her left hand before slowly sliding beneath it, lifting her hand up. Her eyes then locked onto her own hand, where a small worm-like creature with hard golden skin appeared, only big enough to wrap her finger. And on the center of the worm's back was a sparkling crystal round shell, but Karina knew it was a refined composition of carbon hard enough to serve as armor. But the most unique part was the inner band of the ring, where the special promise was engraved, Shino x Karina. It was a diamond ring, one crafted just for Karina. A similar ring now also rests on the finger of Shino's left hand. Watching Karina stare at the ring on her hand in a daze with no response, Shino couldn't help but ask with some trepidation, "Do you like it?" Hearing his words, Karina snapped out of her daze, tears beginning to well up in her eyes once more. Shino's face stiffened. Could it be, she didn't like it? Did he mess up the atmosphere because he didn't kneel down? Maybe the other parts of the process were also important? Suddenly, Shino felt a strong force shoving him to the ground, and moments later, he groaned, overcome by Karina's intense movements. His groan was muffled as Karina's lips locked onto his, her wild passion almost overwhelming him. Despite the wild allure, Shino managed to resist, flipping Karina over and pressing her against the ground. He firmly held her hands above her head, looking down at the beauty beneath him. His voice was hoarse, but he tried to stay focused and clear-minded. Karina. There's no need to be so surprised, right? I know nothing I do can escape your eyes. With a rosy hue on her face, Karina smiled, tear stain still present, I know. But I'm still happy. Because I've been waiting for this moment ever since my rebirth. Shino chuckled, it's good that you are happy. Based on your reaction, I almost thought you didn't know. Wiping away the remaining tears, Karina teased, how could I know? After all, I almost forgot that my dear still had a system creation function because it barely gets mentioned. So, I naturally won't know what surprises my dear will pull out just for the sake of the plot. The couple exchanged smiles. Shino lowered his head, sharing another warm moment with Karina before pulling back. Karina gazed at him, licking her lips seductively. Not going to finish first, my dear? Shino helped Karina up, his gaze shifting towards the approaching forest as if sensing the approaching enemies. I'm afraid that before I finish, we will be disturbed. So, let's take care of them first. Humphrey. Karina glared in the direction of the approaching Hidden Leaf Village ninjas. My dear, our scattered zergs have arrived. Our big parting gift is also ready to be summoned. Since they insist on an unfair fight, we shall show them what a true number advantage is. My dear doesn't need to participate in person, let me handle the rest here. Pressing herself against Shino, Karina whispered into his ear, our overlords, carrying the Flying Thunder God markers, have already settled into their positions. Our highway to escape the Land of Fire has been established. My dear, let's change our location and I will dutifully report on where the other important characters who didn't participate in this siege went. Grinning in understanding of Karina's implications, Shino locked hands with her. His gaze then shifted towards an Akatsuki member who emerged from a swirling spatial distortion nearby. "Oh, I understand. There's no need to come thank me for staging the wonderful reunion. Have a good one, Obito." And with a flicker, Shino and Karina vanished, leaving the man's outstretched hand grasping empty air. Obito's crimson Sharingan blazed with anger as he stared at the empty space before him, clenching his gloved hands into a fist and smashing a hole through a nearby tree. "A Barame Shino." He then shifted his gaze towards the encroaching ninjas, his Sharingan briefly flashing as he retreated into the entrance of his divine space. The swirling spatial distortion soon vanished. Not long after he disappeared, a swarm of bugs gradually rose from the ground, morphing into the form of Karina. Sensing the hidden ninjas stealthily camping on the trees nearby, she grinned, and her palm automatically split open, letting the prepared blood spill forth. Then, she slammed her hand onto the ground, summoning jutsu. Poof! A furious storm of smoke engulfed the forest, causing surging wind currents that ravaged the nearby trees. Woo! The hidden ninjas summoned forth wind, blowing away the smoke. But as it cleared, their faces paled with shock. Before them was a hulking monstrosity over 20 feet tall, multiple times the size of their own height. It was a giant beast on all fours, covered in a thick, heavy carapace armor with bony spikes adorning parts of its shell. Resembling a ram, two bone-like scythes protruded from its front-like limbs, its blades ready to tear through enemies with ease. This was the most powerful strain of the Zerg's ground units, the Ultralisk. As if sensing the ninjas, the beast awoke from its slumber, lifting its enormous, deformed head upwards to let out an earth-shaking roar that sent tremors through the forest. The roar set off a turbulence, whipping back the forest trees, and the nearby ninjas were sent flying back through the air. The rest of the approaching ninjas dug their feet into the ground, using chakra to stabilize themselves as they raised their arms to shield their faces. Clenching his teeth, Hayashi, with his Byakugan activated, surveyed the surroundings. "There's a lot of them coming from around us, below, and the skies. We're surrounded." Tsunade, her blonde hair fluttering in the turbulent wind, gritted her teeth and stared at the towering beasts scattered in the forest with a solemn expression. I really made the wrong bet on that bug brat. Chapter 164, Loose Ons. High above the ocean outside of the Land of Fire, aboard one of his overlord, Shino leaned back, a sense of accomplishment washing over him as he made yet another deposit into his beautiful bank. A special kunai with a flying thunder god technique formula attached to it twirled gracefully in his hand as Shino observed Karina snaking down to ensure all his remaining funds were safely secured in his savings account. As Shino watched the holographic screens before him, he assessed the situation, his mind sharp and calculating. The Hidden Leaf Village 11, or rather, the Hidden Leaf Village 8 after Shino's rebellion, had all been dispatched on separate missions, avoiding the confrontation. Naruto was naturally off training with Jiraiya, and their appearances on their radar were sporadic, fleeting. Hinata was last determined to be in her clan, but Shino's bugs couldn't infiltrate her clan's defenses to confirm her status. Hide-and-seek against the Byakugan was clearly impossible, especially when they were alert against Shino's bugs. On the other hand, Kiba, once a vibrant and reckless boy, now helplessly lay in his house, despondent and empty, accompanied only by the melancholic whimpers of Akamaru. On another screen was a scene of the capital, where a covert squad of Enbu stealthily dismantled his growing cult. Though the masked leader couldn't be identified, Shino knew it was Yamato. With his mighty wood style and combat prowess, Yamato easily crushed Shino's experimental creations, their power only limited to Chunin level capabilities. Much of Shino's cult was quelled in this encounter, leaving his army in need of rebuilding. Yet, Shino remained undaunted. The cult's legacy would persist, fueled by the unyielding desires for power among the slum dwellers. Don't underestimate the denizens of the slums and their desires for power. The denizens' fervent longing for a better life would ensure that Shino's scheme would endure, even if the odds were stacked against them. On another holographic screen, the figure of Denzo, the cunning old mastermind behind the siege, loomed ominously. Far away from the battlefield. Shino couldn't help but let out a wry chuckle as he remarked, "That old crackpot is always up to his tricks, avoiding the real confrontation and lurking on the borders of the Land of Fire and Land of Rain, waiting for Hanzo's ninjas. But what's he up to this time?" Karina, with her trademark playful demeanor, did a final flourish with her tongue before replying, "According to the intel we've gathered, it seems Denzo wants to sneak those ninjas, his temporary allies from Hidden Rain Village, into the Land of Fire. But his true motives remain shrouded in mystery. It's either to aid in the siege against us or to clean up the mess after both sides have weakened each other. Classic Denzo, always scheming for his own gain." With a smirk, Shino added, "He's probably waiting for the perfect moment to strike, ready to pick the peaches after everything is over." Perhaps he's even thinking about seizing the Hokage position if Tsunade falls. But little does he know that his calculations won't succeed this time and Hidden Rain Village won't be coming. After juggling the two picked peaches with her mouth, Karina assured Shino, "I gave Conan the reins on that front. After all, she's the de facto leader of Hidden Rain Village, and I trust she's got it under control." By now, one of her paper clones should have met up with the Hidden Rain ninjas and sent them back. But even if that had failed due to some accidents, we're well prepared for any eventuality. We never intended to engage in a lose-lose battle in the first place. Satisfied with Karina's response, Shino nodded in approval, letting her focus on her main task. Indeed, Shino knew Denzo probably didn't anticipate his methods of escape. Hidden Leaf Village had readied itself with contingencies to counter him, even bringing in the Kurama clan to nullify his Ganjutsu. Yet, it was all in vain because they either didn't expect him to master the Flying Thunder God technique or they simply had no methods to counter it. The fourth Hokage was a true legend and his mastery of the Flying Thunder God technique played a pivotal role in bringing an end to one of the ninja world wars. Needless to say, if the technique could be learned and used proficiently, it's an overpowered and broken technique. Frankly, even Shino wouldn't want to face an enemy who wields it, despite his ability to use it himself. Shino's escape from Hidden Leaf Village wasn't surprising to him. He had carefully planned every step, and he had also held back on using some of his most potent trump cards. This was only because Shino was cautious, fearing that pushing Might Guy too hard would cause him to burn youth, activating the overpowered Death Gate. He knew that even with Guy's 7th Gate's ultimate move, Date Tiger, Guy already posed a deadly threat to him, but at least he could react and escape from danger. However, when it came to the fast and formidable Evening Elephant, that even Ten-Tails Madara struggled to defend against it. Shino had no confidence that he could react in time to escape from such an attack. And then there was Night Guy, a forbidden technique that distorted the very space around the target, making it impossible to dodge. In such a situation, Shino wasn't willing to test the reliability of his Stage 2 Flying Thunder God technique. Of course, now that he had successfully escaped, Shino wasn't too concerned about Guy taking on his disposable Zergs. Guy can burn youth and play all he wants now, and it won't affect him unless Guy can throw his kick from Hidden Leaf Village all the way to the Land of Water. Well, that is if Guy can still play after his injury from activating the 7th gate. Patting Karina's head, Shino felt the building momentum, his thoughts straying over to his maid, Ying. "How is everything on your end, Karina?" As if her sixth sense picked up on his true question, Karina playfully bit down, giving him a glare as her voice echoed in his mind. "Don't worry, my dear. The critical period has passed and the devouring process is going smoothly under Kirina's watch. Of course, we won't let such powers remain in Ying's hands. Using her as the core, I've begun to assimilate the remnant powers of the unknown invaders and integrating it into my dear's system space. With just a small part of the power absorbed, we've already gained preliminary control over some of the abilities only Yakumo previously possessed, like storing objects and creatures into the system space." "Oh?" Shino's interest was immediately piqued, and with a thought, he summoned Conan to his side. With her usual neutral expression, Conan glanced at Karina before fixing her gaze on Shino. "What is it?" Stroking Karina's head, Shino opened his Ganjutsu domain with a thought, enveloping Karina and sending her into his system space, proving the feasibility of her words. He then turned his eyes towards Conan in silence. Feeling Shino's intense gaze, Conan shifted her attention to Karina's unfinished task. With a neutral expression, she calmly glided over to take care of it. Shino observed with interest as the black bands wrapped even tighter around Conan's thighs as she knelt down. Still maintaining her neutral expression, Conan's lips parted. "Finish faster. I'm still handling the business over at the Land of Rain," she said calmly. Then, she gracefully sunk into her duty. Despite not catering to his needs and aiming for efficiency, her neutral, stoic expression that didn't change, even during such tasks, intrigued Shino and brought a strange sense of excitement to him regardless. With another thought, Shino brought Karina back from the system space to his side, wrapping his arm around the sulking beauty's waist as she cutely pouted over having her job stolen, and on such a special day, too. Shino soothed her in a soft voice, "She will be busy after. After you finish your report, we can continue. After all, you do need some rest after the exhausting your chakra to help me cast the Thunder God Jutsu repeatedly." Despite her dissatisfaction, Karina's lips curved into a smile, rubbing the ring on her finger and showing it to Conan, who only glanced at it briefly before refocusing on her task objective. Seeing no reaction from Conan, Karina pouted, "No fun." Karina then pressed herself against Shino's arm, holding him close as she pulled up a diagram of the demoness Yakumo. "My dear, once the devouring succeeds, we expect to gain much more than just the abilities displayed by the demoness. There is the strange power of the Guardian of the Tower, along with the unknown power that infiltrated your system space and established its own anchor at an unknown time. Both of these will bring significant benefits once absorbed. Not only that, Ying may also gain some advantages from regaining control over her own body. As if delighted by one less competitor, albeit temporarily, Karina playfully twirled her red hair. The only unfortunate thing is that we don't know how long this devouring process will last. The power of those infiltrators is exceptional. If Ying had to go through this alone, she might have been wiped out. Thankfully, the enemy is already trapped within my dear's domain, and we naturally have the advantage due to the system space's passive characteristic of assimilating foreign entities and our accumulation of sealing techniques. If everything goes well, eh? Already? Shino applied pressure to Conan, signaling her to stay quiet. Not bad. But it's probably due to your efforts before, Karina. So? Conan forcefully lifted her head, her neutral expression composed yet she squinted slightly. I still have work. Her eyes widened slightly with shock as Shino roughly sealed her mouth. With his hands slipping through the layers of her soft blue hair, Shino stood up. Oh. That's a good reaction. As Karina watched Shino discuss with Conan, she licked her lips seductively, as if recalling some memories. Standing up, she pressed herself against Shino's arm, raising her hand and displaying her ring in front of his eyes. My dear, after all of this is over, how about we abruptly halting his movements? Shino quickly covered Karina's mouth with his hand, surprising her. Hush, Karina. What you deserve, I will fulfill in due time. There's no need to say things that could set up death flags. Karina blinked playfully, nodding slightly as she licked Shino's palm. Shino raised a brow and lowered his hand, sliding it back onto Conan's soft hair. Seemingly satisfied with Shino's answer, Karina fixed her eyes on Conan, who had already returned to her neutral expression, and commanded, You know the real rules around here by now. So. Deeper, until my dear is satisfied. Conan's amber eyes momentarily swept towards Karina before complying. Hearing Shino's groan, Karina smiled blissfully as she controlled the Overlord, heading towards the islands they had discovered. She was excited about their future, so naturally, she wanted to bring even more excitement to Shino. The fifth Mizukage under the desk in her own office would be rather thrilling, wouldn't it? But would everything really go as Karina planned? Or had they forgotten about the hidden danger that hadn't shown himself yet? Chapter 165, Bloody Retribution. Hi-ah. Thump. 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 The tough shell of the rampaging Ultralisk finally cracked under Tsunoda's relentless assault. Leaping back, panting, she allowed the other ninjas to take advantage of the opening she created with their supporting barrage. Glancing down at her bruised hands, Tsunoda channeled her chakra to aid their recovery, ignoring the scratches and bruises covering the rest of her body. Why are their hides so tough? She grumbled in frustration. My lady. The slug on Tsunoda's shoulder spoke up hesitantly. Katsuya, how are the others? Tsunoda's fierce eyes remained fixed on the giant Ultralisks, their scythe-like limbs tearing through the forest and trampling everything in their path. Katsuya sighed, her tiny mouth shrinking. It's not looking too good, my lady. Even with my assistance, their injuries aren't light. Many unfortunate ones took direct hits from those large creatures. Tsunoda's clenched fists trembled, her face solemn as she surveyed the countless bodies scattered on the battlefield. Her gaze settled on Hayashi, his 8 trigrams palms revolving heaven coming to a stop, the large barrier around him gradually dissipating. Hayashi, how many more are there? Gasping for breath, Hayashi scanned the area with his Byakugan. His face grew somber as he raised his palms. Lord Hokage. Leave it to us here. You should return to Hidden Leaf Village first. There is no need to say more. Why am I putting my life on the line? Because now. I am the 5th Hokage of the village hidden in the leaves. And Hidden Leaf Village is right behind us. There is no room for retreat. Tsunoda's voice grew fierce as she slammed her fist into the ground. Boom. The crater on the ground sunk in further, and cracks spread out like a spiderweb, with strange blood seeping from them. Her attack cleared the ambushing Zergs in her vicinity. Yet, Tsunoda's eyes turned even fiercer as she witnessed bony spikes emerging in the other areas like a deadly wave, slaughtering many of the ninjas who had came to support from Hidden Leaf Village. Damn it. In the midst of chaos, Tsunoda witnessed the horrifying sight of corroded bodies falling from the forest canopies above. These ninjas had chosen to fight atop the trees, seeking to avoid the sneak attacks from underground, but they had tragically succumbed to a barrage of suicidal insects bombarding them from the skies. Rushing to aid a still-living ninja with missing limbs, Tsunoda unclenched her fists as she knelt down, applying medical ninjutsu. I knew it wouldn't be a good thing to listen to that old man. Now, we've poked a hornet's nest. And where is he when we deal with the aftermath? Her frustration and anger were palpable. Boom. 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 Explosions echoed through the forest, flames setting off a deadly firework in the background. Tsunoda watched helplessly as the injured ninja took his last breath. Bowing her head, her hand trembled slightly as she clasped the bloody pendant handed to her by the fallen warrior. "But I am also responsible," she whispered, the weight of her duty as Hokage heavy on her shoulders. "My lady. Don't blame yourself. Enemies like this weren't expected. Even we from the Holy Lands have no knowledge regarding these creatures." Katsuya tried to console her, her antennas twitching as she received signals from her counterparts. "My little ones have analyzed their compositions after decomposing them, and it's determined that they are mindless creatures following instincts, and now they are most likely controlled by another life form. Unless you find that one." Stashing the pendant, Tsunoda stood up, her fists clenched and her eyes fierce as she glared at the ravaged forest. "Shino Ibrahim. You've trampled on our ancestors' treasure. Their dream. And you will pay the price. As the Hokage, I will put a stop to you sooner or later." The forest was alive with the sound of chirping lightning as Kakashi's Rikiri finally drilled through the thick carapace of an ultralisk. The beast let out a final roar of anger before collapsing to the ground, causing the earth to tremble under its weight. Leaping through the air to avoid the ultralisk's last instinctive clamping of its sides, Kakashi landed next to his panting comrade, Guy. As they watched the ultralisk vanish in a puff of smoke, both warriors were drenched in sweat, their bodies showing signs of exhaustion and injuries from the fierce battle. Despite the strain on his trembling limbs and blood seeping from his green tights, Guy flashed a smile towards Kakashi, as expected of my eternal rival. "I'll have to admit you've taken the lead by far this time, but we can never determine the true winner until the end." Guy. Kakashi's Sharingan eye was hanging limply as he gasped for breath. "Don't push yourself. Ha ha ha. Don't worry. It's not that easy to beat the green beast of Hidden Leaf Village. I still have plenty of youth to burn," Guy declared, mustering his strength as he stomped his feet and rushed forward to face another incoming ultralisk. Hidden Leaf Village strong kick. With a mighty leg sweep, Guy struck the front leg of the ultralisk, causing it to lose balance and roar in pain. Yet, its deadly scythe still swung towards Guy. With a tilt of his body, Guy barely evaded the scythe's edge, feeling the rush of air as it grazed his hair. Panting, he slid back, watching Kakashi rush forward with a sharp lightning blade in his hand. Noticing his rival's exhaustion, Guy clenched his fists, the weight of their desperate situation bearing down on him. "Is it time? But even if I burn my youth, I can only stop a couple, but how many are there? Unless I can find that shonen." In another location, as the chaos raged around him, Asuma leaned against a tree, biting a cigarette as he bandaged his own wounds. After struggling up, he clenched his hands over his trench knives, observing the giant insects that seemed to deliberately avoid his position, and he couldn't help but feel a suspicion taking hold. "Are you behind this, Kurenai?" No answer came, and despite his injuries, Asuma forced himself back into the fray. In the canopies of the forest above, the battle was relentless, with streams of fire, lightning, and wind erupting into the air above, destroying the swarms of scourges descending from the skies. In many parts of the forest, Hidden Leaf Village's defense was in full force, with barriers and seals established at multiple points in the forest to fend off the relentless waves of zerglings charging over the land. The zergs were numerous, but Hidden Leaf Village was not to be underestimated. As one of the most powerful ninja villages, it couldn't be easily overrun by sheer numbers alone. However, the cost of the battle was high, and it was turning into a war of attrition. The controller of the zergs knew this, and so did Hidden Leaf Village. The controller of the zergs had successfully retreated, but Hidden Leaf Village couldn't afford to do the same. Even now, the zergs could simply detour around them and attack the village directly, yet they didn't. But if they retreat, then the battlefield would be moved to Hidden Leaf Village, and the civilians will definitely not be able to survive the onslaught. It was clear. They were being forced to stay and face this desperate challenge, and it seemed to be a retaliation for their earlier assault on the enemy. Tsunoda understood the precarious situation they were in. It felt as if they may have fallen into a mastermind scheme, being pushed out to confront Shino in order to deplete Hidden Leaf Village's strength. Despite that, she couldn't forgive the man for the destruction he had brought upon her village. Though he may have been justified in retaliating, they were now on opposite sides. As the battle raged on, Tsunoda knew she had to make a difficult choice. Should she compromise to save lives, or should she stand firm and defend her village, risking even more casualties? The weight of the decision was heavy on her shoulders, but the fifth Hokage knew she had to act, regardless of the consequences. Yet while Tsunoda hesitated, a new variant of zergs emerged in the distant skies, their presence forcing Tsunoda's hand. Carried aloft by leathery wings, their long, annelid-like bodies dangled in the air as they swiftly soared through the air in paths. These creatures were mutalisks. As they closed in on the aerial defense line, unlike the blind scourge, The mutalisks were agile and evaded the destructive ninjutsus targeting them with ease. Swooping down towards the enemies and structures below, the mutalisks aimed their tails and pumped out green bolts composed of small, voracious sentient parasites. These were the glive worms, and as they swiftly approached their targets, the bolt transformed into an emerald green shade. Crashing onto their targets with a devastating force, the parasites dispersed, flying between multiple targets as they degraded explosively and wreaked havoc upon their targets. The defensive lines crumbled under the sudden disruption, leaving the blind scourges free to dive down, preparing to inflict even heavier damage. The situation seemed dire, and Tsunade felt the weight of impending heavy casualties and uncertainty about the ability to fight back after the devastation. But just when all hope seemed lost, the battlefield fell into a sudden stillness, as if time had paused. All the Hidden Leaf Village ninjas below seemed to have become statues, many staring at their impending doom with horror on their faces. Even powerful elites like Kakashi, Guy, and Tsunade were no exception, their expressions frozen with resolve, shock, anger, and other emotions that hinted at their confidence, yet betrayed their helplessness regarding the others. The same was applied to the Zergs everywhere, and the Zergs suspended in mid-flight, as if held by an unseen force. Suddenly, an intangible force swept through them, and within mere moments, all the Zergs on the battlefield were swept away, shattering into dust and erased from existence, vanishing from the world. In the midst of this surreal scene, traveling on the Overlord far away from the battlefield, Shino, Karina, and Conan were unaffected by the force that had wiped out the Zergs and the battlefield, but their gaze had turned skywards in unison as they felt an immense pressure descend upon them. And moments later, they too vanished. Chapter 166, Final Boss. In the blink of an eye, Shino found himself tumbling through an otherworldly expanse, a vast space that defied explanation. Instinctively, his back protruded, sprouting a pair of wings that allowed him to hover and maintain balance in the air. Beside him, Karina also manifested chakra wings, holding on to Shino to stabilize herself. Conan, floating before Shino, partially transformed her body into paper and allowed a layer of paper to coat her exposed skin. Moments later, she had already donned her paper-transformed outfit, hovering before Shino as her hands calmly adjusted his pants into place. Arriving beside Shino, her neutral expression concealed any sense of embarrassment, and her paper butterflies fluttered out to scout the surroundings, their white forms contrasting against the strange backdrop. With a frown on his face, Shino surveyed the scene to locate the one who disturbed his happy activities. It didn't take much effort for the trio to locate their enemy this time. Their adversary wasn't far away, hovering brazenly in the open as if he disdained to hide. He caught a striking figure, a tall and pale-skinned elderly man with a distinguished goatee cascading down to his waist. Spiky, shoulder-length, pale brown hair framed his face, and a braided lock draped in front of his left ear. Protruding from either side of his forehead were horn-like appendages, while a red, rinnegan-like marking adorned the center. Beneath those, his pupil-less white eyes locked onto Shino. Although it was their first meeting, the old man's white full-length kimono with a pattern of 6 black magatama already gave Shino an inkling of his identity, the Sage of 6 Paths, Heigoromo Otsutsuki. As an intimidating presence rippled out from him, Heigoromo's serene gaze held Shino captive as he spoke with a sense of ancient wisdom. "You know me?" Vigilant and calculating within, Shino threw out a carefully prepared excuse. "We've gathered many tales, legends, and scriptures from the world, piecing together fragments that offer glimpses of remarkable existences such as yours. According to these tales, you departed this world long ago, yet it seems legends are not always true. Still, it appears that your true self has transcended this realm, leaving behind only a consciousness. But I can't fathom why a powerful being like yourself would single me out." Heigoromo observed Shino with keen interest. "You are correct. I no longer belong to the realm of the living, and I usually refrain from interfering in the world's affairs. However, an old friend of mine foretold the world's impending doom, a child of destruction, a harbinger of endless disaster upon all life. This dire prophecy unsettled me, and I've kept a watchful eye ever since. It didn't take long for me to notice that the course of the world had been disrupted, and I soon traced it back to you." Shino inwardly cursed, aware that the old toad sage's scrutiny had finally led to this confrontation. He had long been aware of the prophecy through Jiraiya's surveillance and now finally faced the consequences of that foreshadowing. This encounter served as another confirmation of the world's meddling, for prophecies were but an extension of the world's will, a method of disseminating information regarding itself to chosen ones. But Shino wasn't prepared to give up so easily. "Do you truly believe in a prophecy? If it were true, then what you are trying to stop will eventually be fulfilled. What if I never had any intentions to destroy the world? What if you become the reason for my change of attitude? Even the wisest among us cannot see all ends." Heigoromo's gentle smile persisted, his response measured and composed, brimming with confidence. "But as long as I resolve you here, There will be no issues. In the face of Heigurumo's unwavering determination, Shino knew that any hope of peaceful resolution had evaporated. By his side, Karina and Conan braced themselves, their carapace armor encasing them, prepared for the imminent battle as their voices rung in Shino's mind. "My dear, our current coordinates have been locked, and the Zergs can be summoned at any moment. Shino, I'm ready to be the support to hold your bridge up." As his own carapace armor gradually enveloped him, Shino sighed. Some fates can be changed, but some destinies are inevitable. On the other side, 9 orbs of ominous black chakra materialized around Heigurumo, forming a circular arrangement beneath him. Materializing in his hand was a dual-headed shakujo, a black Buddhist ring staff, exuding an air of power and mastery. Shino's instincts warned him of the deadly threat posed by the truth-seeking balls, but even without that warning, he knew better than to touch them. Heigurumo seemed amused, seemingly untroubled by the trio's show of power. "Initially, I had no intention of intervening, as I wish to preserve this consciousness for other matters. However, you've gone too far this time and the balance of this world would be thrown into turmoil due to your actions. So, I can only resolve matters by eliminating the source. This is the righteous path. There's no need for meaningless struggles." Exasperation filled Shino, and he couldn't help but sigh. Shino knew he wasn't the protagonist and definitely will not suddenly explode with power to overcome any situation. If he were facing the legendary true body of the Sixth Sage at the peak of his power, wielding creation-level abilities, he might have just laid flat and surrendered outright because he won't even have the chance to struggle. But this was only a remnant soul. Shino believed he still had a fighting chance, and he refused to back down. He also saw this as an opportunity to gather data and measure himself against the Six Paths level. Moreover, he knew that there was no reason for anyone to give up without a fight, unless it was a comedic absurdity. And this was far from a comedy. With fierce determination in his eyes hidden behind his mask, Shino sent out a signal and vanished from his position, ready to engage in the battle ahead. Swoosh! Heigurumo's calm gaze followed the purple streak that zipped through the air. With a wave of his staff, he effortlessly repelled a wave of paper encasing him from all sides. Boom! The explosive tags, hidden within the paper barrage, exploded, but they failed to even ruffle his clothes. Yet, it succeeded in shrouding Heigurumo in fumes and smoke. Suddenly, a barrage of adamantine chains sneakily shot through the smoke, attempting to ensnare Heigurumo, followed by a barrage of paper with intricate symbols. But Heigurumo only sneered, dismissing the attempt. Sealing techniques? At this level, it matters not. With a whoosh, the black orbs rotating around Heigurumo surged forward, colliding with the chains, shattering them in an instant. The paper barrage also proved futile, unable to break through an invisible barrier protecting the old man. Outside the smoke, Karina wiped the blood from her mouth, gritting her teeth as her broken chains dangled behind her, slowly recovering. Shino, it's confirmed. Sealing techniques won't work against him. His mastery in this field surpasses ours. Even as a remnant soul, we can't seal him. I'm deploying our emergency stash of Zergs from the system space now. Temporarily setting exit to secondary transmission point, as Karina summoned forth their hidden army around Conan, who was hovering at another location. Conan continued to wave her hands, surrounding Heigurumo with a storm of white paper. At the same time, behind her, paper with special symbols and patterns began to interconnect with one another, gradually forming a giant paper disc. "Conan, open up a route for the Zergs," Karina ordered. On it, as the curtain of white paper parted, the Mutalisks charged towards the paper storm, diving through the scorching flames and smoke. Within, Heigurumo noticed the new enemies, but remained composed, casually waving his staff. Strong currents of wind suddenly sliced through the air, transforming into lethal blades that swiftly decimated the approaching Mutalisks. The strong gust of wind continued to rush outwards, and the paper storm barrier surrounding him was blown away along with the smoke, clearing his vision with ease. But in the midst of this intense confrontation, Heigurumo's keen senses detected an air disturbance behind him. His eyes glinted and his senses passed through a veil of bugs, revealing the situation within. Hiding within the veil, he perceived Shino hovering midair, using 2 Mutalisks as a foothold. On Shino's back, the fleshy wings were replaced by 2 grotesque, cannon-like protrusions, and at each of their tips was a giant rotating Fuma shurikens, formed from chakra and energy that gave them an ominous violet hue. Knowing he had been discovered, the curtain of bugs parted, and with a grin, Shino locked his gaze on Heigurumo, Razan Shuriken. With his declaration, the 2 chakra-formed shurikens launched towards Heigurumo with incredible force, causing Shino's body to throttle backward through the air due to the recoil. Swoosh! The 2 giant shurikens screeched through the air, quickly approaching Heigurumo. However, Heigurumo showed no sign of dodging. Instead, 2 of his truth-seeking balls rushed out, morphing into small blankets and completely enveloping the incoming Rasen shurikens with little effort. Shino frowned as he watched the two black orbs distort a bit due to the explosion of the two Rasen shuriken, but that was it. He had infused natural energy, the supposed weakness of truth-seeking balls, in his Rasen shuriken, and it still didn't work. That's just utterly broken. As the clash of Shino's shurikens and Hagoromo's balls occurred, Conan had created two giant spinning chakram-like shaped paper discs, controlling them to rapidly cut through the air towards Hagoromo like lethal saws. At the same time, with the assistance of water stored within their system space, Karina had summoned forth a tsunami, letting the towering natural disaster surge forward towards Hagoromo, accompanied by Hydralisk swimming within, all aimed at the old sage. Yet, it appeared that all their efforts were futile. The paper shurikens collided with the truth-seeking balls, losing their momentum and disintegrating into scraps of paper. Similarly, the balls accurately struck the cores of the tsunami, breaking its momentum and source of energy, resulting in the wave crashing harmlessly to the ground below, leaving the Hydralisk slithering around below, helpless against the powerful foe in the air. Darn it. He didn't even need to use anything fancy, just lazily using his balls. This old man still has such powerful balls at his age. Karina's frustrated curse echoed through their communication. Karina, it seems that any ranged ninjutsu won't have any effect on him, regardless of their rank, area of effect, or even if blended with physical objects, Conan calmly analyzed, as she sent another barrage of airplane bombs forward, creating a smoke screen around Hagoromo. Pretty sure all ninjutsu won't work. I've already noted it in the database. The truth-seeking balls can nullify all ninjutsu. It seems we'll have to rely on physical attacks, but taijutsu is out of the question because as long as we touch those balls, the consequences will be dire. The situation seemed grim, but Shino refused to give up, determined to find a way to counter the legendary Sage of Six Paths. Then, my dear, it's time for our Hydralisks to take the field. With Karina's guidance, the Hydralisks below had already arranged themselves, ready for a siege. Aiming upwards, they launched a calculated barrage of bony spikes towards Hagoromo from multiple angles, bringing an unexpected surprise on his usually composed face. However, the Sage of Six Paths quickly countered, transforming multiple truth-seeking balls into rotating black walls that disintegrated any of the incoming physical attacks with ease. Despite the apparent failure, Shino still saw an opportunity in the situation. Due to the volume of the spikes, the legendary sage managed to analyze and block most of the attacks with his rotating truth-seeking balls, but some spikes managed to bypass his defense, forcing him to use his remaining balls for defense. Chance. Swoosh. In a flash, Shino appeared above one of the infiltrated spikes, causing Hagoromo to raise a brow as if he had just discovered the flying thunder god seal hidden on it. As he closed the distance, Shino aimed his hands at Hagoromo and hollered out as a distraction, "Hagoromo, did you know that you're under the influence of the world's will and being manipulated to fight us?" For a moment, Hagoromo's reaction stalled, providing Shino with an opportunity. Distraction no jutsu success. In a split second, Shino launched bony spikes from his hands towards Hagoromo at nearly point-blank range. But Hagoromo can't be underestimated. Despite being momentarily distracted, he responded with remarkable agility, using his truth-seeking staff and mastery of taijutsu to cleanly eliminate the incoming barrage. But in that fleeting moment, Shino disappeared again, leaving a giant paper ball in his place. With a sweep of his eyes, Hagoromo noticed the thick shell formed by layers of explosive tags and the black oil hidden within. Boom. An enormous explosion engulfed the area. From a safe distance, Shino admired the blast and playfully remarked in the comms. "Ah, art is an explosion. We're burning money. Fortunately, we have Conan, watch out." Shino, the sudden warning from his teammates made him realize the enemy had appeared behind him. But it was too late to evade because his chakra had completely stagnated, as if sealed away by his foe. "I've finally located your hidden core dimension. It's time to end this farce." From behind, Hagoromo's calm voice declared his intention to end the battle as his incorporeal hand sunk into Shino's head, and take back what I created. The situation had taken a perilous turn. Will Shino survive? Or will it be the end of the story because the author has gotten lazy? Chapter 167, Dead End in a sparsely furnished laboratory. Kurenai's fingers danced nimbly over holographic screens, managing parts of the Zergs in battle while her gaze shifted between the strategic battlefield data on the screen and the eerie black larvae stationed in the lab's central area. This ominous larvae, intricately connected to a network of equipment and fleshy appendages, was Ying, in the midst of a devouring process and rebirth. While the critical stage had passed, Kurenai still couldn't completely shake off her worry. After all, Ying was more than just an experiment, she was Kurenai's cherished disciple. Suddenly, the laboratory quaked. No, it was more than that, the entire secret realm shuddered, sending unsettling vibrations through the air. Kurenai's crimson eyes narrowed, a surge of instinctual alarm coursing through her. Swiftly, she dived into the ground, melding with the earth itself, and soon emerged outside the lab, her gaze turning upwards and fixed upon the anomaly above. Surveying the boundaries of the system space, she noticed an additional, faint layer of black mist now serving as an extra barrier. But her attention was drawn to one part of the skies, where an enormous hand, colossal in its proportions, had reached the secret realm ceiling. Cracks spiderwebbed outward from the point of entry, the integrity of the space itself threatened. Even the new layer of black mist couldn't withstand the hand's intrusion. That hand. Those sleeves. The sage. Rising from the ground with alarm and apprehension, Kurenai initiated a complex array of seals, sending synchronized commands with Karina to activate the formidable defenses they had painstakingly established within the system space. Meanwhile, with a slow, deliberate grace, the giant hand reached down as the sleeve of its immense white robe flowed as though submerged in water. The colossal hand descended, seemingly unimpeded, its target unmistakably clear, the creep land mass below, the heart of their lair, where the hatcheries were situated. And within that cluster, a unique hatchery stood out, its grotesque form bearing an abnormal white texture. It was the vessel containing Chomai, the host of the Seven Tails, the target of this monumental intrusion. However, midway through its descent, the colossal hand's expected success was disrupted by a startling transformation of its intended target. A distortion rippled across the surface of the white hatchery, followed by protrusions emerging from multiple parts of its grotesque fleshy surface. The white, fleshy substance expanded and extended outwards, morphing at an astonishing pace, soon taking on the appearance of gnarled wood, a manifestation of the wood-style technique. With each passing moment, thick wooden branches erupted from the peculiar hatchery, interweaving rapidly as they shot skyward. Beneath the earth, more branches extended, embedding themselves like roots, solidifying the structure's hold as it braced for the impending clash. From a distance, Kurenai's eyes widened in sheer wonder. Before her, an awe-inspiring sight unfolded, an enormous wooden hand surged forth to meet the intruding sage's hand. Rumble. At the point of impact, the wooden hand was suddenly pressed into the ground, sending subtle ripples of tremors throughout the landmass. Then, a seismic jolt shook the earth, gullies forming across the creep-infested terrain as the sage's hand attempted to fish out its prey. Yet, the wooden hand stood unwavering, its grip steadfast within the ground. As if synchronized with the hatchery's struggle, the very biomass composing the landmass responded, constricting around the roots of the wooden hand, preventing it from being plucked out. But Shino's plan was far from over. Determined to benefit from the unwanted advance, the wooden hand continued to grow, its fingers elongating and ensnaring the sage's hand. Wood extended further, intricately weaving and interlocking with the sage's appendage, ensnaring it in a tantalizing stalemate, thwarting its attempts to withdraw. On the battlefield outside, Shino's determination blazed in his eyes as he clenched his bloodied teeth beneath his mask. Though his body remained sealed and immobilized, his spirit refused to yield. So what if there was a power gap? Shino wasn't going to give up without a fight. His struggle was etched across his features, and with a surge of willpower, half of his once orange hair began to shift, the brown mahogany overtaking the half of the vibrant orange in a dazzling display of power, a transformation that signaled the activation of his Kuramo bloodline despite simultaneously using Jugo's sage transformation. Shino was able to activate two bloodline limits at once. This feat, however, was short-lived, the color soon reverting to its former shade of orange as Shino fought to maintain his sage transformation, gasping from the strain. But the fleeting moments he managed were enough, for he had succeeded in pulling Karina into his system space. Shino knows he definitely can't beat the original Hagoromo. And now he even knows he may not be able to beat Hagoromo's consciousness. But, he can at least beat the old man's hand, right? So, since Hagoromo stuck his hand into his territory, don't expect to get it back. The battleground outside held an adversary too formidable for a direct confrontation, but this intrusion into Shino's domain offered a chance to tip the scales in their favor. Karina materialized within the system space, her gaze locked on the ensnared hand above. A fierce scowl etched her features, teeth grinding in frustration. Why are these troublesome old men always interfering with Shino? They meddle with our lives and waste the precious time I can spend with my dear. I'll make sure they regret it someday. Now, let's take some interest. Time was of the essence, and Karina wasted no moment. A torrent of adamantine chains erupted from her, encasing the trapped hand and rapidly coalescing into a sealing barrier, weakening the hand's struggle. Swift and resolute, she also embedded herself within the very earth with her chains, an auxiliary anchor to reinforce their efforts, preventing the hand from ever escaping. Simultaneously, both Kurenai and Karina synchronized their efforts, wielding the power of wind style to sever the wrist of the colossal hand. As the blade-like gusts sawed into the wrist over and over, swarms of zergs surged upwards, crawling along the appendage, their relentless gnawing further cutting into the wrist. The atmosphere within the system space brimmed with tension, the clash between unyielding forces mirroring the unfolding battle in the physical realm. Outside, Hagoromo's surprise was palpable as he felt the persistent gnawing at his ensnared hand. Frustration and curiosity mingled in his expression as he attempted to withdraw his hand, only to find it stubbornly stuck. A crease formed on his forehead, his powers momentarily thwarted by the tenacious grip of Shino's strategy. With a decisive thought, Hagoromo brought his staff crashing down towards Shino, a manifestation of his determination to reclaim control. The air seemed to ripple around Shino as the young ninja contorted his form, abnormal and almost grotesque, to thwart the descending blow. Bony blades jutted from his body, forming a strong scaffold against Hagoromo's lowering arm, designed to ward off Hagoromo's assault and entrap his other hand. Seeing the success of his plan, Shino wasn't going to waste this chance. In a display of otherworldly prowess, Shino's limbs contorted and abnormally bent backwards, generating an ethereal blade formed from blue-white energy. The azure-white blade then bit into Hagoromo's flesh, sawing away at his hand and causing a reaction of surprise to flicker across the sage's features. What manner of energy is this? It can counteract my sage energy. Soon, Hagoromo's calm gaze bore into Shino's transformed limbs and energy, a keen assessment leading to a realization. An outsider, just like her in them, he mused, drawing an unspoken connection. Shino remained silent, focused on sawing away, but the lack of denial was a confirmation in itself. The realization ignited a decisive resolve within Hagoromo as he commanded his truth-seeking jades to intertwine into an impregnable shield, an intricate dance of power to deflect both swarms of insects and Conan's unrelenting paper barrage. In tandem, the sage's staff left Hagoromo's hand and hovered in the air. Simultaneously, unknown chains snaked towards Shino and coiling around his form, applying another layer of seal. Then, with a solemn face, Hagoromo commanded his staff to smash down upon the hand trapped within Shino's domain. The decisive impact of Hagoromo's staff against his own ensnared hand shattered the stalemate, ending the friendship shake between the colossal hand and the writhing wood. With mere moments, Hagoromo vanished from his position, reappearing at a distant vantage point. And in his previous location, a dark sphere lingered, an eerie testament to his favorite trap. Shino felt a tumultuous sense of liberation as he sensed the giant hand tumble down through the sky within his system space, but his shock soon gave way to seething anger as he sensed the inescapable force dragging him inward towards the black sphere. A guttural growl escaped Shino's lips, his features contorting with rage as his chakra remained sealed and even his body was immobilized in place. Even his access to the system space was denied. Trapped within the grip of the growing black sphere, a sense of finality settled over Shino, his voice resonating with defiant fury as he recognized the infamous sealing technique. Chibaku Tensai. It was a sealing technique that could create an artificial satellite from scratch, strong enough to seal even powerful existences like the ancestor of Chakra. This was overkill for sealing Shino, but it was also for this reason that Shino was angry because it was certainly effective. Yet, Shino's anger was met with a chilling realization: the very seal Hagoromo had imposed before had severed his access to his chakra, natural energy, and even the system space, preventing any further spatial transmissions, rendering his plight even more dire because he couldn't summon Karina to save him. Staring at the encroaching abyss, Shino's helplessness seemed absolute, his situation an inescapable web. This was a dead end. It is praiseworthy for someone like you to have knowledge regarding this sealing technique. I don't know what strange abilities you have, and perhaps there may be methods to evade death. But, as long as I seal you, all problems will be solved. Hagoromo's voice carried an air of finality, his words threading through the tense atmosphere. Glancing down at his missing arm, a silent reminder of their struggle, Hagoromo let out a weary sigh from the ancient entity as he efficiently commanded his truth-seeking jades and maintained his hold against Conan's attempt to save Shino. Believing Shino's captivity was a foregone conclusion within the grasp of his sealing technique, an unwavering determination resonated within Hagoromo's gaze. There is no escape. Oh, and do not worry, I will ensure to hide you in a place where no one can see, as you don't deserve to be displayed in a respected location like her. Nani? The sage's words hit Shino like a wave, unraveling the layers of Hagoromo's strategy. The realization that there were specialized locations for sealing, distinctions between captives, sent a jolt of disbelief through Shino's thoughts. In the midst of his struggle, Shino's mind traversed history's corridors, piecing together a tapestry of ancient secrets. Shino didn't see any other satellites floating around the world. So, he had the false impression that there were no other invaders. But the notion of other outsiders, forgotten invaders sealed away in the annals of time, emerged as an apparent possibility. After all, there were apparent signs that there were more than one alien discovering this world. They left their relics in the world, some powerful ones still roaming the lands, but there must have been more that have not been mentioned in the anime and manga. Where did all the other aliens go? Now, Shino knew. Due to her relationship with Hagoromo, Kaguya, the worshipped progenitor of Chakra, afforded a prestigious resting place as the moon of this world, while others were concealed within the shadows of obscurity, probably in the vast universe beyond, never to be found. Shino's deduction took a darker turn, his thoughts crystallizing around a grim reality. Hagoromo's tactics were indeed formidable, more than just a clash of power. The unfolding scene challenged Shino's expectations, revealing the true extent of Hagoromo's calculated approach. The old sage didn't play cards by the book. The sage's cautious nature and the direct sealing maneuver shattered any illusions of a straightforward confrontation. It was a calculated gamble, a swift and efficient strategy that threatened to close the curtains on Shino's story. If he was really sealed away, even if he wanted to save himself using his zergs, he won't be able to. Not only that, everyone within his system space would be sealed forever within, except Conan. However, it was clear Conan would have no chance of escaping because she was also beginning to be affected by the attraction force. Not only that, with Hagoromo watching, her fate was doomed. Shino's contemplation danced on the precipice of despair, his gaze locked on the ever-changing projection of potential plans and their inevitable invalidation by Karina. However, there was one unchanging option, always hanging at the topmost corner of the constantly changing screen before his eyes. Shino's chaos of thoughts converged as he moved his gaze towards this singular glimmer of hope, a trump card, one of the most important powers he had gained from his upgrade into a Zerg life form. It was power capable of growing with his own evolution, but it was also a power that had been deemed unusable with his current standards of energy reserves. It was a completely overpowered ability, yet the consequences were unknown even with all the effort they had invested in researching it. It was a hidden hole card. Probably given to him to fill in plot holes. Shino. The consequences of using it is unknown. Just wait. Don't do stupid things. I promise I'll find a solution to. Karina's frantic voice pulsed within his consciousness. We can't wait any longer. I'll leave the rest to you, Karina. Shino's resolve solidified, his decision unwavering as he brushed aside hesitation. A somber certainty colored his response, a conviction that spoke of the necessity of this sacrifice. Because only this way, there is a chance. As the inky abyss of the sphere gradually swallowed his form, under his mask, Shino's vibrant orange pupils underwent a metamorphosis, transitioning into a deep and vibrant hue of royal violet. Concealed behind his inscrutable mask, his eyes glowed with a newfound intensity and insanity, an ominous presence radiating from them as if an indescribable existence was descending. Chapter 168, The End. Amidst the vast expanse of the battlefield, a palpable tension threaded through the atmosphere, as swarms of Zergs clung fiercely to the ground, resisting the relentless gravitation force of the encroaching black sphere. Some Zergs had already been ensnared by the inescapable grasp, defying gravity and ascending into the air, victims of an inevitable cosmic force. With each passing moment, the gravitational pull intensified, its voracious appetite extending its reach to even the landmass below, the chunks of land being sucked towards the sphere gradually growing in size. As she sensed the pull gradually affecting her, Conan's brow furrowed in determination as she surveyed the relentless struggle unfolding before her. Her gaze soon shifted, lingering on Hagoromo, his inscrutable figure stably suspended in midair. His calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the tumultuous chaos below, a reminder of the overwhelming power he wielded, a power seemingly impervious to his own ability. Resolute, Conan's focus shifted back to her arsenal of paper behind her, meticulously assembled over the course of the battle, each piece of paper etched with hidden symbols prepared for the grand technique. Now, it was time. As her chakra infused into the symbols, the sources of malice collected and carefully sealed within the confines of her other papers were also infused. Despite her discreet actions, as if sensing the malice, a flicker of awareness seemed to pass between Conan and Hagoromo as their gazes met, a mutual acknowledgement that a pivotal moment was at hand. Conan's resolve solidified as the weight of her decision settled upon her. And at that moment, Conan decisively channeled her power, and with a flourish of practiced hand signs, Conan invoked the long-prepared seal as she teleported over beside Hagoromo. Space-time jutsu, underworld turnover. The very fabric of reality seemed to ripple around them, a powerful technique weaving its tapestry. Sealing symbols manifested beneath their feet, a mesmerizing dance of orange-reddish energy tracing an ethereal circle akin to a sun as a ring arose around the duo. The conjured ring enveloped Conan and Hagoromo, an iridescent barrier sealing them within. A surge of power surged through the circle, the very essence of the technique acting upon Conan's soul. The pull was visceral, a sensation akin to being caught in a tempestuous maelstrom. Conan's form wavered, her being subjected to the unyielding force. In a heartbeat, reality shifted. The world spun, time and space interweaving in a chaotic ballet. Conan's vision blurred momentarily. Then, a sudden jolt. A rush of vertigo accompanied the disorienting sensation of descent. Conan's senses gradually sharpened as she beheld her own body, limp and tumbling down to the world below. As for her soul, it now faced off against Hagoromo. Hagoromo's gaze swept over the intricate seal that held him captive, his eyes then settling upon Conan's wounded form below. An air of quiet contemplation surrounded him as his attention shifted to her soul, his voice a mere whisper amidst the cosmic currents. "You will perish if you do this. Is this the path you wish to tread?" Conan's gaze, steady and unwavering, found its way to Shino, who had vanished from the space when her sealing technique was triggered. A faint smile danced upon her usually neutral face, a fleeting glimpse of her determination. "I am willing to be the support that holds our bridges up, regardless of costs." Hagoromo's hovering staff, drawn back into his grasp, hung poised in the air as his eyes followed Conan's line of sight. His tone held a note of curiosity, seeking to unravel the depths of her conviction. "The path you trek will bring no good to the world. He will not bring peace, but war and destruction. I have seen your history and that boy carrying eyes similar to mine, yet you stand resolute by his side. Why?" As if it had never appeared, Conan's fleeting smile gradually disappeared. Her gaze met his, a calm intensity emanating from her. "You speak as if you understand us, but you have no idea what it is truly like for those at the bottom. Your achievements are undeniable as the sage of ninjas, your sage wisdom is renowned, yet your vision is cast from afar, ignorant of the masses who truly suffer from the system. The foundations of this world were laid by ordinary hands. It is the ordinary people who let this world thrive, and yet, time and again, it is the people who have been trampled on, constantly exploited." As if he didn't care that Shino had escaped, Hagoromo listened, a silent audience to her impassioned words, his demeanor unmoved by her stance, confident everything was within his grasp. The cycle perpetuates, the people pour their earnings into the pockets of the privileged nobles, who then fund the very ninjas sworn to protect them. Yet, once there is a problem, the people will still have to separately commission ninjas through a task. A twisted equation, where the burden weighs doubly upon those who can least afford it. The cycle continues, unbroken, and the suffering deepens. Conan's expression shifted, her neutral facade hiding the fervor beneath. "This is but just a small example, and there were many more. Yet these issues still haven't been solved, even by esteemed existences such as yourself. But that man had opened my eyes, and prepared plans for solving these issues from the root. Although it's unknown if it is feasible, but his actions have shown me the flowers of hope." As her paper fluttered around her, Conan's voice emerged resolute, a clarion call cutting through the void. "He will become the bridge that leads us to peace, a dawn of a new era, and I will be a support holding the bridge up. I won't let you stop him." Pity. As the empty sleeve of his robe fluttered, Hagoromo's sigh seemed to echo in the ethereal expanse, his response somber and final. "It grieves me to witness the fall of one who would contribute to the world's progress, but you have been corrupted by that outsider's deception, and your devotion to this outsider has clouded your judgment. There is no need to delay further." As Conan's paper wings unfurled on her back, Conan raised her hands with purpose, a manifestation of her unwavering commitment. "I have received the will of God and I must kill you." In the ninja world, an eerie dance unfolded as the Zerg legions burrowed beneath the Earth's surface. They streamed back into concealed hatcheries, a primal exodus, surrendering their essence to the nurturing embrace of these subterranean chambers, recycling their biomass. In the midst of this somber ballet, a figure with flowing red locks flitted between the chambers that span the world using the Thunder God Jutsu. Her movements were fluid and precise, each step a calculated rhythm, as she meticulously conducted the final harvest. While this transpired, an array of Shino duplicates wandered across the landscape of the world. They were a discordant symphony, creating chaos and confusion, a cacophony of distractions that reverberated through many parts of the world, diverting attention from the true foci of her plan. In the heart of Donica village, next to the rising Tower of Heaven, Karina's clone fervently operated the state-of-the-art console hovering before her. As Karina's fingers danced across the luminous interface, orchestrating the delicate ballet of technology, Kurenai's presence was a silent sentinel, her vibrant pollen weaving an intricate barrier of Ganjutsu, a shroud concealing the tower's existence from prying eyes. Abruptly, the main body of Karina materialized beside her clone, a solemn expression etched upon her face. Her gaze shifted towards Kurenai, her hand outstretched to clasp Kurenai's, an unspoken connection that conveyed a depth of purpose. "I'll leave it to you here. Use our remaining ninjutsu clones and stall him as long as possible. Every moment counts." Kurenai met Karina's resolve with her own, a silent nod affirming her commitment to the task at hand. The squeeze of Karina's hand, a fleeting yet profound gesture, conveyed an unspoken understanding. A heartbeat passed, and then Karina enveloped Kurenai in a brief yet fierce hug, a union of camaraderie and trust. As they parted, Karina turned resolutely, her steps carrying her towards the towering construct that loomed like a monolith. With every stride, the tower ascended layer by layer, each layer a testament to the countdown of the inevitable. Behind her, Kurenai observed Karina's journey into the heart of the tower, her senses attuned to the unseen currents arranged around the tower that pulsed with genic energy. As Karina's form vanished into the tower's depths, a radiant genic barrier emerged, cocooning the tower in an impenetrable shield, a final stand against the storm that loomed on the horizon. Within the heart of the tower, on a strangely designed platform, a hushed reverence cloaked the air as Karina's gaze fixated upon the hatchery before her. Its aura resonated with a connection that was uniquely hers, a tether that bound her to a destiny entwined with sacrifice and purpose. As she crossed the threshold into this chamber of destiny, her steps were measured, each movement laden with the weight of a choice that held the balance of worlds. The chamber embraced her, a solemn sanctuary that cradled the lifeless form of Shino. He lay there, a figure of serenity, untouched by the turmoil that gripped their reality. Karina's hands trembled as they reached out, enfolding him in an embrace that was both tender and desperate. The collected biomass flowed forth, an ethereal river of vitality that coursed through her fingers and into his dormant form. Shino, she whispered, her voice a fragile cadence that trembled in the air, a prayer to awaken a slumbering soul. Yet her love remained suspended, a somber reverie unbroken, blood weeping from his closed eyes as if mirroring the pain that clung to her heart. A bittersweet smile curved Karina's lips as her touch traced the contours of Shino's visage, a caress that seemed to seek solace in the touch of his skin. Her fingers trailed a path down to the ring that adorned his hand, a symbol of their shared journey, of the love and trials that had forged an unbreakable bond. "Our journey together has been wonderful," she murmured, her words a gentle lament that lingered in the chamber's embrace. "But once again, you were right, my dear. Not every world extends the hand of growth without demanding its due. Sacrifices must be made eventually, even when the heart rebels." Enfolding Shino in a final embrace, Karina's form seemed to deform and meld with the very architecture around her, an ethereal dance of form and substance. The hatchery's walls pulsed and throbbed, morphing and transforming according to a pre-established protocol. "Sorry, my dearest," she whispered, her voice a fragile echo as her being merged with his, a fusion of destiny and design that transcended the boundaries of mortal comprehension. "Karina cannot heed your command to abandon you, to flee while leaving you behind as a mere diversion. Anyone can be sacrificed, but you can't." A single tear traced a path down her cheek, a testament to the emotions that welled within. Her head lowered, a kiss pressed to Shino's still lips, a bittersweet seal of love and farewell. The chamber itself seemed to sigh, its contours shifting and folding in upon itself, a cocoon of transformation. As herself disintegrated and merged into him, her final murmur, a whispered promise, was engraved in his mind: "Since this world rejects you, let Karina become your guardian on the voyage to the next, always protecting you, for all of eternity." Outside, in the stormy ambience, Kurenai stood like a sentinel, her vibrant red mesh armor billowing like a banner of defiance against the storm. The very atmosphere seemed to hold its breath, a silent witness to the impending confrontation. Her eyes remained shut, a facade of calm veiling the electric anticipation that surged beneath her skin. Time remained elusive, slipping through the crevices of reality until Kurenai's eyes fluttered open, revealing a gleam of resolve within their crimson depths. The storm within her gaze mirrored the tempest that churned above as she gazed into the sky, where Hagoromo appeared. Hagoromo's gaze swept over Kurenai, brushing over her form before piercing through the veil of illusion, revealing the tower with its outer shell already orbiting around itself, announcing its impending activation. "Meaningless tricks," he scoffed, his voice carrying an undercurrent of disdain for the illusionary ruse. Whoosh! With a wave of his hand, the weight of his staff met the barrier with a resounding thud, fractures spider-webbing across its surface like fractures in reality itself. The facade of protection quivered under the force, a fragile shield on the brink of collapse. Yet, Hagoromo was surprised because the barrier exhibited an unexpected defiance. This energy. It can even stop senjutsu. Suddenly, a metallic rain of kunai sought to assail him, a calculated onslaught meant to exploit any vulnerability. Yet, his truth-seeking ball rushed forward with precision, an ethereal guardian that defied the onslaught. Metal and explosive intent evaporated in its wake, turning them into dust and leaving Hagoromo unfazed by the assault. His gaze slid back to Kurenai, his voice carrying the weight of an unyielding verdict. "Meaningless struggle. I'll solve you first." Whoosh! In a swift and calculated maneuver, a couple of black orbs rushed towards Kurenai, almost instantaneously. After sending out the sure kill attack, Hagoromo turned his attention back to the slowly repairing barrier, ready to smash it apart. At this moment of critical danger, Kurenai stood unyielding, her crimson gaze unflinching as they locked onto Hagoromo. Ignoring the truth-seeking balls, she detonated her genetic prowess, invoking a power hidden deep within, a forbidden legacy etched into her very being from her Zerg upgrade. Pollen style, forbidden garden. Poof. With her final words, Kurenai's body exploded, allowing a haze of pollen to erupt from her body. It was an ephemeral sea that billowed and surged, a tide of nature's fury answering Kurenai's final call. The truth-seeking jades pressed forward, carving a path through the floral onslaught, yet the rest gushed forward. A resilient storm of pollen engulfed Hagoromo, a tempest of nature's defiance that concealed him within its swirling depths and obscured his vision. Hagoromo's brow furrowed, his senses attuned to the fluctuations rippling through his surroundings. He was no stranger to the art of illusion, and recognizing this distraction for what it was, he prepared to shatter its grasp with his formidable abilities. Time was a luxury he couldn't afford to squander, for his target was poised to escape his grasp. Yet, his resolve wavered as a surreal scene unfolded before him. Ethereal beauties materialized, each an epitome of elegance. Their presence halted his actions in a way that defied explanation. Their pale skin was kissed by an otherworldly hue, cascading strands of gray hair framing their features. An aura of regality enveloped them, their heads naturally endowed with peculiar adornments, 2 brown horns and a third eye on their forehead that bore witness to unseen realms. A palpable shock reverberated through Hagoromo as his gaze was drawn to their visage. Their nudity, an audacious defiance of convention, held a mesmerizing allure that momentarily arrested his attention. Among them, one figure emerged, her semblance a haunting echo of a beloved face from his past, a face that held forbidden temptations. Mother. Hagoromo's demeanor, typically composed, faltered as his eyes traced her form, his emotions a tempest he struggled to contain. The woman, as if attuned to his regard, approached with an otherworldly grace, her form swaying seductively before him. Yet, just as Hagoromo's senses threatened to plunge deeper into the illusion, he summoned his willpower, dispelling the enchantment with an intangible force as he let out an indignant roar. Outrageous! The illusion shattered, and the world around him realigned with reality. His countenance, a mask of irritation, vanished the remnants of the pollen's touch with a dismissive sweep. His staff, an extension of his power, cleaved through the air along the rest of his truth-seeking balls, descending upon the fractured barrier with a resolute purpose. Boom! The brittle defenses yielded to his assault, crumbling like fragile glass, and a path lay before him. Stepping forth, Hagoromo's anger propelled him, ready to enter the tower and remove the blasphemer. Yet, his entry was abruptly stymied as a red beam of light soared into the heavens from the heart of the tower. The force from the tower's activation momentarily disoriented his movement, a testament to the inexplicable power at play. Hagoromo's focus sharpened, his gaze fixating upon the seed-like entity soaring into space alongside the radiant red column. You can't escape. His words carried a potent command as an unseen force surged from him, enveloping the tower and imprisoning it, cutting off the rest of the red energy from its source. Then, with another step, Hagoromo vanished. Beyond the confines of the ninja world, a scarlet lance of light punctured the cosmic canvas, forging a path into realms unknown. Nested within its brilliance, a compact vessel clung to the incandescent current, and soon, it breached barriers beyond comprehension, entering a different void along with the scarlet energy. In the near expanse, a figure of ethereal presence held vigil, framed against the backdrop of the cosmos and the ninja world. Long gray hair flowed in the celestial currents, his attire reminiscent of a lineage long etched in the annals of destiny. The man, iconic in his Otsutsuki heritage, observed the luminous trajectory with detached fascination, arms calmly folded behind his back. A cosmic waltz unfolded before him, yet he stood a silent spectator, an observer of destinies, devoid of any intentions to intervene. With its source of energy interrupted, the light's passage soon faded into obscurity and the entrance to the void vanished, the ripples in the fabric of space soon settling down. It wasn't long before another entity emerged to join this cosmic ballet. Hagoromo appeared beside the man, his eyes, eternally questing, swept the expanse, finding emptiness where his target should have been. Frustration marred his features, and his voice echoed with ire as he transmitted his query across the interstellar void. Hamura, why did you not stop them? Hamura turned his gaze toward Hagoromo, his demeanor somber and reflective. His words, like whispers from a distant epoch, resonated with gravitas. Once, it was I who couldn't let go. And now, it is you. Though we managed to return due to the temporary slackening of the world's boundaries between realms, you should know we now tread in a time in which we don't belong. We should not have interfered, for interference begets repercussions. There is always a price to involve ourselves with this cause and effect, brother. Hagoromo's brow furrowed, his gaze flickering toward Hamura's tent Seigan. An inexplicable sensation gripped him, an awareness that his brother's gaze did not rest upon him, but upon something unseen, something lurking beyond his formidable perception. Behind? A dawning realization rippled through him, tinged with uncertainty. Hagoromo's eyes averted, drawn by his curiosity, and he beheld the inscrutable presence behind him that eluded even his senses. A tremor coursed through Hagoromo's being. Words faltered upon his lips, suspended by the gravity of the revelation before him. "Why you are